the man who was illegally sent to a CCOT center facility in El Salvador. Holly, this is the sort of the continuing story. If you recall, I think it was March or April, he was detained, sent to that awful El Salvadoran prison there, and arguably without much in the way of due process. There was no hearing. There wasn't any really court proceeding. He was brought back, and when he was brought back, he was charged by our Attorney General with human trafficking in Tennessee for something that had occurred many, many years earlier.
Right, and one that he was not charged with at the time. And when he was deported to that facility in El Salvador, as you mentioned, there was no due process for him. And that was one of the things that he and his attorneys were like, look, this was an illegal process. And in fact, he had a stay, some kind of a stay, right, on being deported to El Salvador because that's where he was originally from. And he was at risk of being either, beat up, tortured, killed if he went back.
Right. He entered the country without authorization when he was a teenager, so probably 15 or 20 years ago. He had a hearing before an immigration judge who ordered that the government not deport him to El Salvador, period. Right. The only country he could not be deported to is where he was deported to.
Right.
And that's because his family was arguably under some threat from local gangs there. They ran a business that sold cakes and flatbread, a pupusa business. Yeah. And they were under the threat of some gangs. So the immigration judge said, okay, you're here illegally, or at least you're here without documentation. Whatever happens to your status remains to be seen, but you will not be deported to El Salvador. Of course, he was. He then was charged in Tennessee with human trafficking. He was released just this weekend, but was ordered to appear at a Baltimore, Maryland immigration center this morning, and he was
arrested.
Right. Here's his attorney, Simone Sandoval Moshberg.
Mr. Abrego Garcia was taken into custody by ICE this morning. There was no need for them to take him into ICE detention. He was already on electronic monitoring from the U.S. Marshal Service and basically on house arrest. The only reason that they've chosen to take him into detention is to punish him. The ICE officer stated that he'll be taken to a detention center. We asked the ICE officer which detention center. The ICE officer said that they weren't able to say. We asked the ICE officer for a copy of any paperwork that's being served on him today. The ICE officer wouldn't commit to even giving us that paperwork. They do not have the right to put him on an airplane. And that's what we're going to be asking the district court to ensure, that he is not put on any flight to any country whatsoever, whether it's Uganda, South Sudan, what have you, unless and until he has had a full and fair trial in an immigration court as well as his full appeal rights.
So it's interesting, his attorney says he was on electronic monitoring. That means to me he probably had one of those ankle bracelets on that he would have received when he was released from the Tennessee facility. He shows up at an immigration office today. Now, there's some talk, and I don't know whether this is true, that the Department of Justice informed him that if he pled guilty to these federal charges of human trafficking, that he would be sent to deported to Costa Rica.
Yeah.
If he chose not to, and he's going to fight the case, which he apparently chose to do, he would be deported probably to Uganda, although his attorney mentioned at least one other
South Sudan.
Country.
Right. So what's interesting to me really is he is saying, look, the information is you accept this plea deal by pleading guilty to something that you've already said you're not guilty of, but do that and then we'll deport you to Costa Rica. Otherwise, you're going to Africa, dude.
Right. A country where he has no family, no ability to speak
Don't speak the language.
Whatever. Speaking of which, he did address a crowd as he was checking into the ICE office this morning. Some of this you'll about to hear is him speaking in his native language of Spanish, and some is through an interpreter.
Cuando por fin me reuní con mi familia, esa alegría y todas las emociones.
When I was finally able to reunite with my family, all of those emotions, all of those memories will be forever ingrained in me.
Verlos de nuevo me llenó de gratitud y esperanza.
Seeing them again filled me with gratitude and filled me with hope. To me, happiness is simply being with my family and being able to spend simple memories with them.
And, of course, he was then taken into custody there by ICE agents. And I would say this, his attorney said that they wouldn't tell him where he was going to be held. That's typical of the federal government, just for purposes of not wanting to be hijacked or some silly thing like that. But they won't tell you where an individual is being held. What happens is, and I've had a lot of clients in federal custody, you basically hear from them once they get to their detention center. Once to their point, they call you and say, hey, I'm in Oklahoma or whatever. But so it's not uncommon that they wouldn't give that information out, because it would cause, especially in this situation, it may cause people to show up at the facility, protest, or cause problems there. But they'll find out soon enough where he will be housed if he's going to be deported. Now, it also begs the question that you talked about a minute ago. He's still facing the federal charges here in Tennessee for the human trafficking. So if he's deported, he won't face those charges. So the government has certainly put a sort of a cart and horse issue here. Do we just deport him because he won't accept the plea bargain, or do we keep him here and hope that he's convicted? They were really, well, obviously trying to squeeze him into accepting a deal, saying, well, just plead guilty and we'll deport you to Costa Rica.
So his attorneys have filed another lawsuit, right? And one of, I think, as I understand it, it's a habeas corpus lawsuit, which is the due process, right?
Exactly.
Saying he hasn't had any due process, and just to your point, they're going to deport him right now. And it was Kristi Noem who said they're sending him to Uganda.
Right, yeah, and no doubt that was a threat. So yeah, it's another habeas corpus petition. Habeas corpus literally means bring the body.
Right.
Bring me the body.
Isn't it like show me the money? Like show me the proof?
show me where you are. So yeah, that he's being held illegally is ostensibly would be the reason for the lawsuit, to bring him before a judge and say, hey, wait a minute, you can't just deport him because we haven't had a hearing, we haven't had any due process. Of course, the Justice Department's going to say, well, he's here illegally in the first place, and he's charged with a serious crime. And I believe that the Justice Department is now claiming, although he and his family deny it, that he's a member of this MS-13 gang, and obviously the government has an interest in shutting down that gang, at least in terms of its operations in the United States.
Again, we got to go back to the first time that he was picked up. They did not charge him with anything. They just deported him to El Salvador, right? And then when he came back, that's when this like, oh, well, you're a human smuggler. Oh, well, you're a member of this gang. It's like there's nothing to show. At least the government's perspective, they haven't shown, at least according to the attorneys, they haven't had a chance to show in court. They haven't had a chance to have the evidence presented against him, but also to have his defense, right? And I think if I remember correctly, his wife had a baby while he was incarcerated and in Tennessee. And also, if you remember, when he was deported to El Salvador, they were basically told, sorry, we can't bring you back. And then he came back, and now he's...
Mysteriously.
Now
he's
he's at risk of being deported again.
I know we're almost out of time, Holly, but I think most legal experts would say that the charges in Tennessee for the human trafficking are not particularly strong charges, but we may not even ever know that.
Yeah. Look, when we come back, the FBI raided the home of the former National Security Advisor, that's John Bolton, in a move described by the Wall Street Journal editorial board as part of Trump's vendetta campaign. We'll talk about that when we come back.
Hi, this is Doug Wright, and back to school time. Right now, kids are going back to school throughout the state of Utah, and it's time to get into NPS, where you will find incredible discounts. Now, remember, we talk 20 to 70% off each and every day. But often you'll be walking down the aisle and on something you need and want, there'll be an additional savings. It is amazing. Whether it's school clothing, backpacks, supplies, and so much more. And each NPS store is set and ready to help you and your family get back to school. That includes the Salt Lake store at 1600 South Empire, Layton at 1150 North Main Street, and Orem 475 North State Street. And remember, the More Industrial store is right across from the Anchor store in Salt Lake. 4 locations to serve you. I love shopping at NPS. It is truly an adventure, and you never know what treasure awaits you at NPS.
You worked hard for your 401k, but if you've left your job, your money might be sitting in the wrong hands. I'm Jeff Jr. with Trajan Wealth, and it's very possible that the 401k that you have had for years has hidden fees and limited investment choices. But if you're no longer with the company, that 401k may be at the mercy of your former employer. All of these things could be costing you thousands. Rolling over your 401k into an IRA can provide better investment options that align with your long-term goals. At Trajan Wealth, we're fiduciary advisors that are held to a higher standard with no hidden agenda and no hidden fees. Don't let your retirement dollars sit in an old plan, and don't roll it over to your new plan without consulting Trajan Wealth first. Call Trajan today at 801-899-7600. That's 801-899-7600.
Advisory services are offered through Trajan Wealth, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor.
You still have 40 million plus vehicles globally that are driving around with a potential ticking time bomb, a grenade in either their steering wheel or their dashboard. When we look to what injuries may have transpired from a defective airbag, we generally see loss of vision in an eye, or we see facial lacerations. We also see hearing loss. Unfortunately, we started seeing death after death after death. When that passenger airbag exploded, it basically degloved his entire face. He lost his nose, he lost his right eye. The type of catastrophic injuries that one is more accustomed to seeing in a Hollywood movie, and not something from a device in an automobile that's supposed to protect you. Morgan & Morgan has a national reach in terms of handling and prosecuting cases, notwithstanding the team of lawyers that we have collected that focus only on product liability day in and day out.
Morgan & Morgan. Visit us at badairbags.com for an office near you. Prior results do not guarantee a similar outcome.
Hi, it's Tori DeVito. In every family, small conversations can make a big impact. I grew up on tour with my parents. Kind of different, but we bonded over music just like other families do over sports, camping, or other interests. And we talked. Little everyday conversations from silly to serious that built a foundation over time. Honest conversations, like when my dad shared his experiences as an alcoholic.
Your honesty about that part of your life gave me a sense of integrity that I wanted to uphold in my own life. And I was so grateful that you and Mom had become these sober, stable people who were always there for me.
I wanted you to know, from someone who's been in recovery more than 30 years now, that hard work is what creates success, not alcohol or other drugs, whether it's music or anything else. I said it a lot, and I'm glad you took it to heart.
Talk, they hear you. For more information about talking with your kids about underage use of alcohol and other drugs, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
Do you worry about how much someone drinks?
Do you feel angry or depressed most of the time? Do you feel neglected or unloved?
Do you feel you attract people who tend to be compulsive or abusive?
Do you have money problems because of someone else's drinking?
Are you afraid or embarrassed to bring your friends home?
Do you feel that if the drinker loved you, she or he would stop drinking?
If you answered yes to any of these questions, you are not alone.
More than half of all adults have a family history of alcoholism.
Not everyone trapped by alcohol is an alcoholic.
Families and friends are suffering too. Al-Anon and Alateen can help. Call 1-866-200-0223 or visit alanon.org/help.
And expanded Inside Sources.
We learned over the weekend that early Friday morning, FBI agents searched the Maryland home of John Bolton, the former national security advisor to President Trump during his first administration. They were seen entering his home in Maryland and his business in Washington, where he has had a business for some time. Bolton, of course, has been, after he left the administration, has been a critic of Trump, attacking his foreign policy, national security decisions. I mean, he's been in the forefront. Now, I think if you recall, after Trump took office, he withdrew Bolton's security.
That's right. At the beginning, in January, almost as soon as President Trump came into office, he revoked the security clearances for John Bolton. He hasn't been in government for about 6 years now, but it was one of the immediate actions that President Trump took. He has been at odds with Bolton since he fired Bolton for disagreeing with him.
And he wrote a book, I think, where he indicated that he felt Trump was unfit and felt that during his second term there would be retribution. And here it is.
Here we go.
Here's ABC News Washington managing editor Catherine Folders explaining more on this search.
They left with boxes. Those boxes, I'm told, were full of documents. Of course, they have to go through those documents. They presume that some of those documents have classification markings on them. That's how they got the search warrant. They seized electronics. They seized all sorts of things that now the FBI is tasked with sifting through to see if any of those items, documents, for example, that were listed on that search warrant are things that they found in the search.
And you'll recall 3 or 4 years ago, there were some classified document searches performed on Mar-a-Lago and President Biden's home, where his Corvette was stored in the garage. But anyway, there's some classified document searches that were done, and Trump was actually indicted on that, although those charges have been dismissed over that whole immunity.
Well, now he's the president, but they found classified documents in his bathroom.
Right.
In boxes in
Who
his
knows
bathroom.
what will end up happening with that. The Biden situation seems to have been, but Bolton doesn't have the same immunity. He doesn't have the presidential immunity or anything like that. If he had classified documents and they were obtained or kept illegally, who knows where that will go. It's just, I mean, the timing of it just smells bad in light of, in light of Bolton's attacks and criticism of Trump. But Trump did say he was going to go after him.
He did, and he reporters this weekend asked him about it. He had this to say.
I'm not a fan of John Bolton. I thought he was a sleazebag, actually. And he suffers major Trump derangement syndrome, but so do a lot of people, and they're not being affected by anything we do. I don't know anything about it. I just saw that. I'll find out about it. But if you believe the news, which I do, I guess his house was raided today, but my house was raided also.
So if you believe the news.
I don't even know what that was about.
But what was interesting right there is he said, if you believe the news, which I do, although he has attacked the media probably every day since he took office.
Yeah, more than anyone else. ABC News chief Washington correspondent Jonathan Karl broke down what Bolton has said about potentially being targeted by President Trump.
Just days ago, I asked Bolton if he feared being a target of President Trump's.
Are you worried that they're going to come after you in some way? I mean, he's hinted at it before.
Well, I think he's already come after me and several others in withdrawing the protection that we had for from the Iranians.
Bolton is one of many Trump critics who have been targeted by the White House and the Justice Department. The president himself has suggested that many of his political opponents, including former Presidents Biden and Obama, should be in prison.
That's kind of crazy.
Yeah, especially in as much as Trump was able to successfully convince the United States Supreme Court that acts that occur during the course of your presidency are immune from prosecution.
That's right.
And so anything Obama and Biden may have done, even under Trump's definition of inappropriate, were probably done during the course and scope of their presidency and may have some level of immunity.
That's right. That's right. So, look, one of the things that struck me in the reading about this story is the Wall Street Journal, which is typically fairly conservative. Their editorial board ran an op-ed that said this: Trump's vendetta campaign targets John Bolton. And then the subhead is the FBI raid makes clearer that second-term success for the president includes retribution. And, and they just start right off by saying President Trump promised voters during his campaign for a second term that he had bigger things on his mind than retribution against opponents. But it is increasingly clear that vengeance is a large part, maybe the largest part, of how he will define success in his second term.
Ouch. Yeah.
And this is the Wall Street Journal.
The Wall Street Journal, which is a fairly conservative magazine and seen as being pretty balanced in terms of Republican, Democrat.
The New York Times also had one, and they're seen as left-leaning. Trump gets his revenge on John Bolton. Who's next? There's a member of the Department of Homeland Security, former member, who said when the news broke on Friday that John Bolton's home was being raided, that his wife said to him, "We're next," because he was with during the Trump administration, the first one. He was part of the administration, and then he was on the outs, and so he feels like he'll be a target next.
I will say this, as a former prosecutor, I'll make two comments. One as a former prosecutor, one as a defense attorney. As a former prosecutor, you have to acknowledge that in order for the FBI to get a search warrant to an individual's home or their office, and especially the home, that there is a high level of scrutiny that a judge would have to approve and read before he or she could order a search warrant. In other words, I know it's a fairly low level. It's probable cause to believe that there's evidence of a crime, and so I guess I'll give the FBI the benefit of some doubt that they at least had some probable cause. But I'll also say this. You just mentioned that Bolton's wife said, "We're next."
It's not Bolton. It was another DHS official.
But Bolton clearly knew he was in the crosshairs.
Yep.
So I would just say this. If he did have classified documents in his house, like, what are you thinking? You know what I mean? If you know that the administration's coming after you, turn them back over. Give everything back. Get it so that it's not there when somebody shows up by turning it over to the
I'm not sure
authorities.
that he does have anything, right? And that's one of the things that the Wall Street Journal editorial points out. They think it's unlikely that he broke any laws on national secrets, but they say perhaps Mr. Trump intends for the process itself to be the punishment, even if there's no criminal charge. He has to pay for legal counsel. His family has to endure the anxiety of being under federal government siege.
That's true.
So they took his wife's cell phone because it was on the counter and not in her pocket. So she's not even under investigation, right, as far as we know. But they took her cell phone because it was sitting on the counter. I don't carry my cell phone in my pocket at my house.
That'd be a stretch for a search warrant, because the search warrant under the Fourth Amendment has to describe the items, things to be seized with some particularity.
The news is reporting they're pretty broad warrants.
Yeah, so search for anything that could have anything to do with national security. That'd be a stretch. But I mean, I can understand classified documents. You can go through boxes and see something that says classified at the top and go, okay, or you see something that says, privileged, confidential, for your eyes only, that type of thing. I mean, there are a lot of things in terms of documentation that at least they could seize and look at, and they were seen leaving his home. I don't recall what they seized from his office, but he had an office in D.C. and his home in Maryland.
Said there were some papers and some electronic devices, so at least one phone that we know of.
So you can be assured that the FBI is going to go through that the Department of Justice is going to go through those documents and see if there's something there that could lead to criminal prosecution by someone who is in possession of secure documents, confidential documents that they shouldn't be. But I mean, Bolton can't be that foolish that he would leave something that around.
And I'm sure he knew he was he did know that he was a target. He's been a target for 6 years since he left the last administration, but the last Trump administration, I should say. But the other thing, too, is that he has not backed down on his willingness to call out what he thinks are foreign policy mistakes that the president is making in his administration. He's like, he just continues. Even on Friday, as this was unfolding, he was still talking about foreign policy mistakes that the administration was making.
And he's one of the former Trump administration officials who's had their security detail taken from them, which puts them at some risk anyway. So I don't know whether he's sort of privately obtained somebody or he's got somebody that's helping him with that. But I mean, he's clearly under Trump's radar, and I don't know. It's a sad fact, and I hope this isn't the first of a domino effect of individuals who are going to.
Well, we know that there's multiple. Actually, there's at least 3 people he's targeting for what they're saying is mortgage fraud. We also know he said former President Obama, has committed treason and he should be in jail.
Yeah. Wow. When we come back, Ryan Bate, the man accused of killing 2 police officers in Tremont, had his first court appearance on Friday where he appeared to be very emotional.
Are you Ryan Michael Bate?
Yes, Your Honor.
It was a tough thing to watch. We'll talk about that when we come back after the break.
9:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Andy Farnsworth. KSL's top local story this hour. The Buckley Draw fire in Provo has been burning less than a week, but officials say they've had more drone intrusions than they've ever seen at a fire. KSL News Radio's Britt Johnson reports.
It's illegal to fly a drone in an active wildfire area and can carry felony charges. Sierra Hellstrom with the Northern Utah Type 3 Incident Management Team says they have to ground aircraft if a drone is in the area, slowing fire efforts. But if a pilot runs into a drone while flying, it's extremely dangerous and puts lives at risk in the air and on the ground.
Hellstrom says the most drones she's ever seen at a fire was 2. But as of Friday, they've seen 7 at the Buckley Draw fire. It's so many that it might set a national precedent. Law enforcement is actively looking for people flying the drones. The Monroe Canyon fire in central Utah is currently 90% contained. That fire's burned over 73,000 acres. And later today, the BLM says they'll be reopening all of their roads near the fire zone. We had a number of new fires break out around the state over the weekend. The Mapleton fire in Utah County burned around 50 acres and is 30% contained. Fire officials say it was started by kids. We're also tracking a new fire start in Millard County. The Widemouth fire south of Kanosh has burned about 500 acres. It was started by lightning and is currently 8% contained. Our top national story for this hour from ABC News. Officials and experts report more shark sightings in the cooler waters along the Northeast and New England.
New data confirms sharks being detected more frequently, even off the coast of Maine and farther north. Halifax, Nova Scotia, in recent years seeing 2.5 times the number of shark detections. And in the Cabot Strait, nearly 4 times the number. Experts say the sharks are moving north to feed on seals, which have become more abundant thanks to maritime protection laws.
ABC's Sophie Flay reporting. Your money at this moment, the Dow is down 176 points. That's 0.4% to 45,453. Coming up, could get some rain today. Certainly going to have cooler temperatures than last week. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time 9:32.
The sources where we get our news matters.
When you listen to Utah's Morning News, we want you to feel the stories are important to you and trustworthy. This is Amanda Dixon.
And I'm Andy Farnsworth. Join us weekday mornings on KSL News Radio.
Higher taxes, soaring inflation, record low interest rates, and the skyrocketing cost of healthcare. The list goes on. Retiring successfully today is a lot more complicated than ever before. Learn how you could tackle the biggest challenges that you'll face in retirement today. Don't miss a special edition of Retirement Solutions Radio. It's this Saturday afternoon at 3 o'clock, right here on KSL, News Radio 1027.
This is the story of the one. As a lineman, he does whatever it takes to keep the power on in his community. And he wants a partner like Grainger who does the same. Grainger offers the professional-grade products he needs, from voltage detectors to harnesses to hard hats, plus fast, dependable delivery, so he can rise to every challenge. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm, and Chuck McDowell definitely not an attorney. This is Chuck. If someone talked you into buying something really silly and you want to get out of that silly little thing, my advice, get the facts. Call me and I'll send you our timeshare exit kit absolutely free. Inside, you'll learn how timeshare works and all your options for cancellation.
Call Wesley now for your free exit info kit. 800-486-9600. That's 800-486-9600.
Email from school about the incident today.
Scary.
Tell me about it. Did you have any idea that was going on?
None. I mean, you saw Derek at the game last night, too. Did you have a clue?
No, but you know, teachers like me, parents, we don't always know as much as you guys do. Kids hear first about what's going on with other kids.
Half the time, it's rumors.
It can be hard to tell sometimes, but if you're ever concerned about a friend who's having trouble with alcohol, prescription drugs, bullying, violence, anything, you need to tell an adult. Mom or me, a teacher, coach, school counselor, someone you know and trust.
Dad, no kid is gonna tell an adult about that kind of stuff.
I get it, but if we don't know, we can't help. Speaking up about a problem, that's what helping a friend is all about.
For more information, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Mountain America's MyStyle checking account. Heather Kelly, what do we got?
Well, we still have plenty of crashes in play all across the Wasatch Front. Actually, most of these are in the Salt Lake Valley. One of them is northbound I-15 just before the 33rd South exit in South Salt Lake. That's over on the right shoulder. Looks like some of the vehicles are just now pulling back into traffic. Then you still have the partial closure of the collector ramp of northbound I-15 right at 2100 South. You cannot exit onto 2100 South proper from that collector, but the other ramps, 13 South, West Temple, they are open. You also have the load spill that was eastbound I-80 right at 2300 East exit. That is blocking one of the exit lanes at 23rd East. And then you've got some delays southbound I-15 at Beck Street in North Salt Lake from an earlier crash, now on the right shoulder. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather today will be mostly cloudy with a chance of thunderstorms, about a 60% chance. Highs will reach the upper 80s. Today's looking to be the most warm of the next 7 days. Right now, though, it is mostly cloudy and 73 degrees. I'm Andy Farnsworth from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We are Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
It's been 8 days, Holly, since the horrible shooting in Tremont, where 2 Tremont and Garland police officers were killed in the line of duty. We're learning that both of them will have funeral services this week.
Yes, there will be a viewing for both of them at the Bear River High School in Tremonton on Wednesday from 3 to 7 p.m. And local officials are asking the public not to show up before 3 so that the high school traffic can leave the school before they're there for the viewing. And then Officer Eric Estrada's funeral is scheduled for Thursday at 10 a.m. and Sergeant Sorensen's will be Friday at 10 a.m. Both services will be held at the Utah State University Spectrum in Logan. And then we will be airing the funerals live for you here on KSL News Radio.
Yeah, and this has been just a terrible week for that entire community. The shooting occurred Sunday night, 8 days ago. 2 officers killed from the Tremont and Garland Police Department. 1 officer from the Box Elder County Sheriff's Office and his canine were also injured. They are alive and they've been released. And there was a very emotional showing by both of those at the county fair rodeo this last weekend.
Yeah, they showed up.
That had to be gut wrenching to sit there and watch those two come out on the floor and
heroes, right?
Yeah, and address the crowd. Yeah. I mean, and now we're laying to rest these 2 young men with families. It's a tough thing for that community up there, and it's not a big police department. I mean,
no, it's quite small.
Yeah, Tremont and Garland apparently combined their police force. I think that 2 officers represents about 10% of the police department. So that's a big hit on the police department. I'm sure all the other officers are standing up and to the plate and doing extra time and doing whatever you have to do.
Yeah.
But losing one of your own, I mean, you work with. I know how police work. I've taught at the police academy for almost 40 years. And they're a tight-knit community, a very, very tight-knit community. And they work with each other every day. They see each other every day.
You're right.
They
It's
work
family.
together. They're in the cars together. They back each other up.
Yep.
I mean, what a tragedy. And the whole community is just gathered around them. I mean, that's been kind of nice to see.
It has been, yeah.
To the individual that's been charged is Ryan Michael Bate. He was arraigned on Friday. We weren't here Friday, but he appeared. I played this sound clip a minute ago, but I just want to play it one more time. This is his first appearance before the judge.
Are you Ryan Michael Bate?
Yes, Your Honor.
He was appearing remotely. He was because he's in the Weber County Jail. Court was in the Box Elder County courthouse, and that's not uncommon especially since COVID, where we have these virtual appearances. KSL News Radio's Adam Small has more details on what happened at that first appearance on Friday morning.
Ryan Michael Bate made his initial appearance in the case and did so virtually from the Weber County Jail, where he's currently being held without bail. Bate, wearing an orange jumpsuit, struggled to speak the 3 times he was asked to and was seen on camera sobbing throughout the hearing.
Mr. Bate, are you seeking to be appointed counsel to represent you in these cases?
Yes, Your Honor.
You're currently in custody, and so you're not able to work. Do you have any assets or property that you could access to be able to retain counsel?
No, Your Honor.
Bate was appointed 2 attorneys qualified to handle a death penalty case in Utah, as prosecutors have already made it known that's what they're seeking in this case. Bate is facing 20 total charges. He's scheduled to appear in court again on October 30th. Adam Small, KSL News Radio.
So the first appearance on a felony case, and this was exactly what happened here, Holly, is really just a kind of a show-up. The judge will read the charges, and apparently that happened in this case. Adam said that there were 20 charges, which is exactly true, but they also reinstated a domestic violence felony case from 2024. So he
with 5 additional charges,
so
right?
He really stood before the court on 25 charges, 20 involving the homicides, and the prosecuting attorney did something that's unusual but not unexpected, and that is that he said at the time of filing, we're going to make this a death penalty case, because that decision doesn't have to be made until the arraignment. And we talked
Right,
about that
right.
last week. That could be months from now.
Right.
They have another hearing coming up, I think Adam said, in October. That's to give his court-appointed attorneys time to get the evidence, to read the evidence, to start preparing. That hearing may not even go. They may bump that down the road, because even today, I mean, it's only been 8 days. They're probably still gathering evidence.
Oh.
But I would assume that the Box Elder County attorney feels like he has a very strong case to come right out of the chute and charge 20 counts, 2 that include the death penalty, and then file a petition that says, I'm seeking the death penalty here.
Yeah, and last week, Governor Cox had a press conference, and one of the reporters there asked him about this specific case and the death penalty, and he said, I'm paraphrasing, but he thinks it's appropriate in this case. But one of the things that struck me that seems different from most, I guess, initial appearances is how emotional he was. And instead of like what I'm used to, I guess, is feeling like people are emotionless or they're angry. And he was really emotional, and it made me think, the rage has worn off, and now what he has done has set in. He's there for the rest of his life.
Yeah, and it may not be a long life if the state gets its desire here.
Well, it
which
could
is
be 40 more years.
Yeah, 40. Yeah, for the way we're looking at the Menzies and others. Yeah, I mean, it appears that he gets it, that he appreciates the problem that he's in.
Yeah.
And he probably appreciates the fact, like you just said, that he will never be free again. He will never be with his family. He'll never sit down at a restaurant and have a hamburger. I mean, he will spend the rest of his life in right now the Weber County Jail and ultimately the Utah State Prison, and he's presumed innocent. But I think he recognizes the tremendous burden that he's got to get himself out of this.
Yeah.
He was appointed to attorneys. They're skilled, what we call Rule 8 qualified attorneys, which means they've done enough in their history to get them court appointed to do death penalty cases. They filed a motion that I was looking at, what they called a motion for face-to-face contact visitation. So they're saying we don't want to have to talk to him on the phone or through a wall. I was at the Weber County Jail last week. It's all face-to-face. So they didn't really need to, but I guess they wanted to make sure that they can deal with their client on a personal basis, face-to-face, and try to get in there as soon as possible and see him.
Again, you mentioned the ways that the community is still supporting these families, and I think that will continue long after the funeral this week. But one Box Elder County family decided that they were going to help by setting up a lemonade stand over the weekend. And KSL TV's Shelby Lofton spoke with Sherry Kimber and her 2 sons, Caden and Carson.
Our lemonade stand was like the epicenter of a lot of people to be able to help that didn't know how.
It was a huge success.
Years past, the best we could get was 1,000. And we just beat that.
They raised $1,457. They'll donate it to the fallen officers' families.
That's amazing for a lemonade stand.
Yeah.
I mean, good for them.
And their mom says she'll continue taking donations on Venmo through tonight. And also when they did the fair, the rodeo, they had $260,000 worth of pledges made by the local community.
Yeah.
That's really a lot.
Yeah, the community has really risen to the occasion here for these 2 Tremont officers.
We do that well in Utah.
Yes.
Okay, you know this as a legal expert. It's illegal to fly drones in a firefighting area, but some Utahns apparently can't resist, and they're putting lives at risk. That's coming up next, and we're streaming live on KSLNewsRadio.com and on the app for KSL News Radio, which is sponsored by At Your Service Pros.
When it's hot like this, air conditioners struggle to keep up. Parts are under more stress, and sometimes those parts fail. What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and no one helps more homeowners maintain and repair their air conditioners than Any Hour Services. As a matter of fact, last year, over 32,000 homeowners called Any Hour Services for help maintaining and repairing their systems. Any Hour Services has over 100 HVAC technicians to help with everything from maintenance, repair, to installing a new system. This summer, there'll be a lot of people told they need to replace their air conditioner, and they'll wonder, do I really need to? If you're told you need to replace your air conditioner and you still have questions, Any Hour Services can give you a second opinion and let you know what options are available. Maybe it just needs a little maintenance or a small repair. Maybe it does need to be replaced, but if you don't feel good about being told you need to replace your air conditioner, don't ignore those feelings. Call Any Hour Services for help with air conditioner maintenance, repair, or to schedule a free second opinion. Google Any Hour Services or schedule online at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
You're listening to Leaf Filter Radio, and the guru of gutter protection himself, Chris Coonahan, is here to take your most pressing leaf-related questions.
Hey, everybody, Chris here. I understand we have Ron on the line. Ron, where are you calling from?
Uh-oh. Ron, are you calling from a ladder?
Well, I was. I wanted to ask Chris what I need to do to get my gutters ready to have Leaf Filter installed.
Oh, Ron, you don't have to do anything. A Leaf Filter Trusted Pro will come out and clean out your gutters, realign and seal your gutters, and install Leaf Filter, America's #1 gutter protection system.
So I didn't need to get on this ladder?
Ron, Leaf Filter Trusted Pros are in your neighborhood and ready to help. Just visit leaffilter.com/deal to schedule your free gutter inspection and get up to 30% off.
Thank goodness. What was that site?
That's leaffilter.com/deal for your free gutter inspection today. See representative for warranty details. Promotion is 20% off plus a 10% senior or military discount. One discount per household.
Jordan Camper at 7000 South State, located right in the middle of Salt Lake Valley in Midvale. Family owned for generations, Utah's longest truck top and truck accessory shop. Let's talk about tonneau covers. You love your truck and want your truck bed to be protected and covered and look nice, while still being able to use your truck bed area for your work needs, recreation, and hauling. Jordan Camper has a full range of tonneau covers, all the major brands with full warranties. From stylish one-piece models, soft and firm folding covers, to roll-up and snap options. We've got you covered. Tonneau covered, that is, at Jordan Camper, 7000 South State in Midvale. Come on in or give us a call, 801-255-1512. Our experienced staff can answer your questions and install it for you. Information at jordancamper.com.
Hi, Grandma. What's for dinner?
Hey, honey, I'm making stew tonight.
Ooh, can Nina come over?
I'm not sure about our new friend. I wonder if there's been any drinking going on. Alcohol at her age can lead to so many bad things. I've been meaning to ask you, what would happen if someone offered you a drink?
Grandma?
This is hard. She's so young, but I know I need to talk to her about it now before someone tries to give her alcohol. If anyone ever does offer you a drink, I want you to say no. I have too much respect for my family, and I don't want to get in trouble.
Okay.
Really?
I promise, Grandma. I love you too.
Okay, how about tasting this stew and telling me what you think?
Some children may try alcohol as young as 9 years old. It's not too early to talk about drinking. For tips on how to begin the conversation, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. That's underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. This message brought to you by SAMHSA and this station.
Over the years, you've brought them into your home. You were prescribed opioids after the C-section, when Dad injured his back, when your basketball star tore his ACL. Opioids helped with the pain, and you held on to them just in case. But did you know holding on to unused opioids puts your family at risk? Opioids are powerful pain-reducing prescription medicines, but most people who are prescribed opioids don't finish their prescriptions. So millions of unused opioids are sitting in homes across the country. And tragically, more than 100 Americans die every day from overdoses involving opioids. What can you do to protect your family? Remove the risk of unused opioids from your home. Pills, patches, or syrups in drawers, purses, and cabinets, anywhere they might be hiding. To find out how to dispose of them properly, visit www.fda.gov/drug disposal.
And expanded Inside Sources. Inside Sources.
I have seen some really great pictures taken from drones, and I think it can give information and maybe, like, I've seen beautiful geography pictures with drones, but it's illegal to fly them in a firefighting area, and we've had a particular problem down in Utah County. People just can't resist.
Yeah, and if you recall, I went to the scene of that North Ogden fire 2 weeks ago, and I was reporting for KSL Radio that afternoon, and it occurred to me that there were drones in the air, and there were helicopters flying, bringing water into that scene. That crew actually did an incredible job of getting that fire put out, but it really troubled me to see these unmanned aircraft in the area as well. As you might expect, the FAA has some fairly strict laws on operating drones, and it can be actually it is a felony to operate a drone near aircraft, and of course near a fire when aircraft are there, it can be a felony as well. And given that there were numerous drones in the area, I think law enforcement is now trying to track down who the owners of those are and maybe looking to prosecute some people.
Well, we have on the line with us Sierra Hellstrom. She's the Northern Utah Type 3 Incident Management Team and the PIO of the Buckley Draw Fire, which is the one in Utah County. Hi, Sierra.
Hi, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, tell us what you've been seeing specifically with the Buckley Draw Fire with the drones down there.
We've had an incredible number of drone intrusions into our temporary flight restriction. So on wildfires, when we're flying aircraft, we work with the FAA and put in what we call a TFR, a temporary flight restriction, so that we don't have any incidents or accidents of midair collision. And this applies to all aircraft. We even work here in Salt Lake or Provo when we have them. We even work with the local airport to make sure that they can fly around us and they can access airplanes with their flight patterns as well. But one of the biggest issues we've been seeing here on the Buckley Draw Fire is that we've seen an incredible number of intrusions into that TFR with drones. The most I've ever seen on a wildfire that I've been working on was 2 on a multi-week, month-long fire. And on this fire, we've had 12 reportable intrusions, which reportable means that we had to ground aircraft because they were going to interfere with firefighting and we wanted to keep our pilots safe. But overall, we've had 22 intrusions. The other 10 were ones that happened right before or after aircraft was in the air, so we didn't have to ground them because they were already down. But as you can tell, this is a significant impact on our firefighting efforts here.
Sierra, can you tell our listeners it may seem obvious, but the reason for this, these drones can weigh up to 55 pounds, and a collision with a aircraft, a helicopter or light wing aircraft could be devastating, correct?
Correct. Yeah. If anyone has any questions about the devastation that can happen, go Google or look up drone midair collision and see what it does to aircraft. We had one a few years ago on the Palisades fire that took the plane down. It was a fixed wing plane and took it down. We had one that the drone went through the windshield of one of the helicopters and not only took the helicopter down, but hit the pilot in the face and injured the pilot as well. These can be fatal accidents, and if they're at a place where they can't land the aircraft safely, we've seen fatalities from it. So not only the threat of the midair collision, but firefighters and pilots have to maneuver around these drones in order to keep themselves safe. And when they're already flying in strict, steep canyons, that their flight path is already really restricted, we have really big dangers here with our mountain range along the Wasatch Front that we could kill a pilot, we could kill people. And not only that, but the firefighters on the ground rely on aircraft for support. If a fire starts to see heat in one area, they call in for bucket work or retardant drops. Or if we have a firefighter injured on the ground and we can't get life flight up there to fly them out. So it leaves the firefighters on the ground highly exposed if something were to happen. So it's hurting not only our pilots in the air, but our our firefighters on the ground as well.
Wow. So, Sierra, I understand that there are ongoing efforts right now to find out who's piloting those drones. Is that a difficult process to figure out who has the drones?
It is. Most of these drones most of them are smaller, privately owned ones. Most of them only have like a 15-minute to 30-minute battery life. So by the time they're up and we see them and go down, it's hard to track down where they're at. We have brought in some technology that we're working with law enforcement that we've been able to hopefully identify some of them. Some of them were visible by people that we got reports in, and the tips that have been coming in, or people seeing videos on social media that are clearly not from the ground, have really helped us start to track down some of these intrusion users.
Have your pilots, the helicopter pilots and others, also reported that they've caused a problem and that they feel nervous about getting in the air when those drones are up there?
Yeah, absolutely. It is protocol that as soon as we see one in their airspace in the TFR, we ground aircraft immediately to prevent those. One of them was reported by Air Attack. That's the plane that flies overhead above the tactical firefighting planes, and the Air Attack pilot spotted it and called it in. Not the ones yesterday, but the one before that actually the drone flew in the direct path of where the helicopters were picking up buckets. And luckily he had paused to refuel, because if he had not paused to refuel, it would have been a direct collision, because that drone flew right in the path of where he was dropping buckets to the crews. And I mean, thankfully timing was in our favor, but that was the one that really scared us. We were less than a minute away probably from a midair collision.
Wow. That's really concerning. Can you tell us what the status is on the Buckley Draw fire right now? Did you get some rain over the weekend?
We did. We got a little precipitation that helped cool it down. We saw a lot less fire activity this weekend. And, with the impact of the threat of lightning, especially with firefighters on the mountain, we had them disengage for a short amount of time while the storms were pushing through. And then we flew an infrared flight yesterday after the rain came through. And, as fire is, it's so hot and in that heavy timber that there's still quite a bit of heat up along that northeast corner. So we reinserted crews today, and they're up there working. But that's why we're not seeing containment, is even through cooler temperatures and rain, that heat is still remaining in there. And, as the weather picks up and we start to have hotter temperatures and lower humidity, it's still threatening that fire perimeter. Those heat spots are right along the perimeter, and with the right wind, you could get a spot fire that jumps outside the existing perimeter. So that's why we're not seeing containment go up, even though you can't see the flames from the valley. There is active fire up there, and even through this weekend's storm is holding pretty hot.
Yeah, we're told, and you correct me if I'm wrong, that the Buckley Draw fire is up to about 452 acres and about 21% contained right now. With the rains, I guess they were modest. Those numbers haven't improved much, I guess.
Yeah, so the acreage did not increase. We didn't see any growth this weekend because the fire activity wasn't as hot, but we were able to call more of the southwest portion contained. So we're actually up to, as of last night, 42% contained.
Oh, wonderful.
That is good. Thank you for that information, Sierra. And please, if you guys have drones, do not fly them in fire areas.
It's nuts. It's crazy.
Wow.
We are learning some of the other fires. Deer Creek is 17,000 acres, 100% contained. Monroe Canyon, that's the one that we've been following very closely. Over 73,000 acres. It's now 90% contained.
That's good news.
I think that the moisture there has to have helped a little bit. That Willard Peak fire that I started this with up in North Ogden, it seems to be somewhat contained, 75%, but still 577 acres.
And Beulah up in the Uintas is 5,700 acres and 55% contained, so making progress.
Do you still see the Buckley Draw fire?
No, in fact, I drove past it. I went down to my daughter's house in Payson, and so we could see the burn scar up the mountain and where they had dropped retardant, but we did not see any active flames, which is what Sierra had just mentioned, that you couldn't see it from the valley anymore, but it's still burning hot. So
this week, I think, promises to have some moisture, so maybe we'll get some relief on these. What we have 5.
I guess I worry about the lightning,
right,
and not enough rain, right?
And then we had the fellow in Washington County trying to start fires a week or two ago. It was crazy.
That's right.
Well, as it turns out, a lot of adults are struggling to adult more today than in the past. We'll talk about that, the 4 major milestones that young adults are struggling to hit after the break. Remember, we're streaming live at KSLNewsRadio.com and on the app for KSL News Radio, sponsored by At Your Service Pros.
KSL Salt Lake City. From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio, Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
10 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Andy Farnsworth. KSL's top story this hour. We had a number of new fires break out around the state over the weekend. The Mapleton fire in Utah County burned around 50 acres and is 30% contained. Fire officials say it was started by kids. We're also tracking a new fire start in Millard County. The Widemouth fire south of Kanosh has burned about 500 acres. It was started by lightning and is currently 8% contained. Drones are interfering with firefighters' efforts on the Buckley Draw fire above Provo. Fire spokesperson Sierra Hellstrom says they've had more unauthorized drones than she's ever seen at a wildfire.
And where they're flying in dangerous, rocky, steep terrain,
any type of distraction where they may have to look away and do avoidance tactics for a drone itself causes an issue.
Hellstrom says they're actively looking for the people flying the drones, and those people could face felony charges. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. Some global mail carriers say they are suspending package deliveries to the United States because a tax exemption is about to expire. ABC's Perry Russum has more.
Major questions over how this is going to work, what information is needed for these packages, as well as who will be the ones doing the processing on this. So because of all this gray area right now, these companies have decided to just hit the pause button, take a step back, wait and see as more information comes forward in terms of how this is all going to work. Just in the last week or so, U.S. Customs gave out some technical details on how this will work going forward. So it's a pretty quick turnaround from technical details to implementation. So another reason why some of these companies are waiting so long.
Experts say double-check the tracking information on any international packages you have being shipped to the U.S. Your money at this moment, the Dow down 222 points this morning. That's 0.5% to 45,408. Coming up, rain and more rain. KSL weather's next. KSL News Time 10:01.
Mornings are for recharging.
And they're for starting your day right.
We volunteer to join you in the car. Get news and weather at 102.7 FM during the most important part of your day.
Andy and Amanda, each morning between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
When you need a new water heater, you need it right now.
Yep, can't wait on that.
When you need a new furnace or a new air conditioner come the summertime, you need it right now. So Superior Water and Air has a wonderful program where they can help you with financing. If you need it, get it today and pay it off when you get your tax refund or just over time.
That's one of the great things is they have multiple financing options. It's not just one, okay, you've got to do it this way. It's, you can wait till just after your tax refund. Well, what if you need no payments until later in the year?
Yeah.
They can work with you like that because, look, they want to help you get you back on your feet with the thing that doesn't work that you got to use.
Yeah.
And they'll just work with your situation. What a great way to do it.
I loved introducing you to my friends at Superior because they're just great people. And when you invite somebody into your home, you want to feel good about them.
Yeah, and they're so customer-centric. That was what really impressed me was they wanted to work with me and my family, whatever needs we might have.
Right. They want your home to be safe and clean. Superior Water and Air. Here's the number, 801-872-8483, or go to superiorwaterandair.com.
This is the story of the one. As a safety manager at a manufacturing plant, he does everything he can to keep his coworkers safe. From finding ways to reduce risks to keeping safety supplies in stock. And for that, he relies on Grainger. Grainger offers a broad range of quality products and next-day delivery, so he can always play it safe. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
I'm Ed Evans, CEO of Consumer Cellular. We're dedicated to serving people 50 and up, like me. Our needs are different. Big Wireless wants us in an unlimited plan, but if you're not using all that data, you're probably getting used. At Consumer Cellular, we're focused on affordable, reliable plans, including data that suits your needs, not ours. Our plans start at just $20, and you'll get the best customer service in the business.
Call 1-888-FREEDOM or visit consumercellular.com/facts. Plans include $5 credit for auto pay and e-billing. See site for additional facts.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Mountain America's My Style checking account. Let's head over to the traffic center and Heather Kelly.
Well, most of the crashes that we had earlier this morning have cleared on northbound I-15 in the Murray area in South Salt Lake, as well as southbound 15 in North Salt Lake. We also had a load spill eastbound I-80 right near 2300 East. That is also cleared. All the lanes are now open. But if you're trying to travel from westbound I-80 out of Sugar House to then head northbound I-15, it's actually the ramp that's from State Street, westbound 80, that'll then take you to northbound 15. That ramp is still closed, but all the other ramps that lead to that collector of northbound I-15, they're all open, including exiting at 2100 South, 1300 South, and West Temple. Get tickets for Sharing Aloha movie. See the trailer. Enter to win a Hawaiian getaway from Hawaiian Air and Marriott Courtyard, Oahu. 45-plus entries per person possible. SharingAlohaTheMovie.com. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather, highs today in the upper 80s, maybe as high as 89, and we could see rain showers on and off for the next several days. Right now, it is 73 degrees and 74 degrees now, and mostly cloudy in Salt Lake City. I'm Andy Farnsworth from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
You know, a lot has changed over the last 50 years. This is 2025. That's a lot different than what we heard in 1975. Lady Gaga versus ABBA. A lot has changed in 50 years. And one of the other things that's changed a lot is how younger adults are struggling to adult. And that's a verb I'm going to have you help me to describe to our viewers, our listeners.
So one of the things that struck me about the article that I read today was that the census actually has a report. So the people who do the census have a report about some major milestones in what we would consider becoming an adult. So that's what we mean by adulting, right? And my kids, they use it a lot of times when they say the first time they get a paycheck where taxes are taken out. It's like, welcome to adulting,
that's adulting,
right?
Yep.
You start to learn about taxes. Well, there were 4 major milestones that that the Census Bureau looked at. And so 50 years ago, 1975, I was just a youngin', but I was around. But their 4 major milestones were these: moving out of your parents' house, marriage, work, and having kids. So those used to be kind of the 4 markers of I'm an adult now, right? I don't live at home. Married, have kids, and I have a job.
Right. And by the way, we want to hear from you. Are your adult children struggling to launch, or do you support them staying at home? Text us at 57500. That's 57500. And at the next segment, we're going to take some of your calls. And maybe even today, maybe even this segment if you call. But text us at 57500 or call us. Those 4 segments, moving out of the house, being married, working, and having kids, have all decreased.
Yeah,
the numbers of people doing those have all decreased in 50 years.
That's right. And so one of the things is putting all 4 together in one category. So 50 years ago, almost half of Americans between the ages of 25 and 34, so young adults, right? Not just high school grads, a little bit older than that, but about half of people 50 years ago said that they had achieved all 4 of those milestones. And now less than a quarter of Americans in that same age group can say the same.
Yeah, and I'm looking at just one of the milestones, and we'll break them all down. Moving out of the house, 22% in 1975, if I'm reading this correctly, 14% now.
I was just going to say I don't have kids in my 30s living at home, but that's actually not true.
Yeah, 25 to 34-year-olds living at home.
Yeah, I have a bunch in that age category, actually. So I have 2 kids in their 30s, and 3 kids in that 25 to 34, well, the 25-year-old range. And then we have the 10-year-old that's almost 11.
So I'll just be a jealous parent for a minute and say, kids, come home anytime you want.
Well, sure.
And my kids are out of that age group, but of course, living full time, maybe I'd like that idea until the second month.
But part of it is there is some difference in 1975 with the employment rate, because then I would say more women, and this is in the data, but more women were staying home with the kids. So if they moved out of their family home, they were married and they had kids, but they didn't necessarily have a job. But other than that, right, we're looking at these, they just keep going down. And it's one of the things where you say, well, part of it has to be the economic situation, right? You're talking about median home prices that are in Utah, $561,000.
That would seem to lend itself toward more people marrying, just so you have the 2 sources of income. But actually, it's been, I can see staying at home for a couple more years so you can save up money for a house. I also, and children, obviously that's an expense, but married and working, those are factors that you would think would increase.
2 of my married children lived at home. Actually, that's not true. I've had 3 married kids live at home with us. to be able to save money so that they could purchase their own home. Now, 2 of them did not have kids while they lived with us. 1 of them did, right? But it was like, okay, if we live at mom and dad's house and we live there rent-free for a year, that was their goal really for all 3 of them, then we can save up all of that money that we would have paid towards rent and we can use it on a down payment. We do have one texter who said that her son felt his or her son actually felt like an adult when he got his own Costco card at age 27. Right. Fair, right?
Sure.
I have my own Costco card. Now I'm a legit adult. Yep.
There you go.
Yep.
You know, this is another stat that I want to talk about just for a minute. Median home prices.
Yep. Got to talk about them.
Median home prices in Utah, and these numbers are astounding. 1940, $24,000. 1980, that's 40 years later, $113,000.
Yep.
So it increased fourfold. In 2000, it increased about 30% from 113 to 146,000. This year, $561,900 is the median home price in Utah.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
I can understand staying at home. I can understand deciding, hey, we don't want to start a family right now. I can understand a lot of the young people not choosing to adult yet and move on because you just can't afford a house.
Right. But one of the things that strikes me too is the number of people in that age group who are not working. Right. So I'm trying to find the numbers. They're actually a lot lower than I thought. So people do feel like having a full-time job is a key to becoming an adult. Over 80% said moving out of their parental home is key to becoming an adult. But in the labor force, the percentage...
It looks like it's tripled, the number of people that are not working compared to where it was 50 years ago.
It looks to me like, that that there's like 9%.
Right, as opposed to 3%.
Right.
That
not working.
Yeah, not working.
So there's still a lot of people working, but they're, again, are they, what are you doing?
Right, yeah. Living at mom and dad's house. But we're not talking about 18-year-olds. We're talking about 25 to 34-year-olds.
Right.
I mean.
That's right. So it could be college graduate, could have some post-high school training. At least that's in the age group, right? We've talked on this show before, not only about buying a home and that average age has increased. It's in the 30s now. It used to be mid to later 20s, and now we're up into the 30s before people can feel like they can afford to buy their first home. But we know childbearing age has pushed later. We know that marriage age has pushed later. We know that the cost of living has increased, and it hasn't kept pace with the increase in wages, right? So we've talked about that as well.
Yeah, and it's tough because I was a different generation. But I remember moving out of the house my second year of college, so I would have been 19.
I left when I was 17. And I never went back.
And I never went back. Yep. It was tough, and I often thought, why didn't I stick around for a couple more years? But it was just the thing to do. You get a job, and you get a cheap apartment, you go to the university, and move out of the house. And it was just something we did at that time.
Here's another texter with a different experience. She says that her parents were divorced when she was 6, and that she had always lived with her mom. And then when the mom decided that we should get a house, neither one could afford a house on their own, so they got the house together in 1998. She was 36. She said she had a job. She got married 4 years later, and her husband moved in with me and my mom.
Yes.
So that's a different version and one that works.
Yeah. But those numbers are really, I don't know, it's a little troubling, but interesting at the same time.
Well, look, we do want to hear from you when we get back from the break. So if you want to call us, it's 801-575-TALK, or you can keep texting us at 575-00, and we're going to keep talking about this maybe failure to launch or just adulting is coming later and later.
In Box Elder County, they're all about the bucket list. Want to go birding at the premier birding destination in the western United States? Well, check off the Bear River Migratory Bird Refuge. How about land art? The spiral jetty and sun tunnels will leave you inspired. Or stand on the spot where the Union and Central Pacific Railroads joined and forged the destiny of a nation. Yep, Golden Spike National Historical Park is like no other place. Check. Splash, boat, camp, or fish your day away? Willard Bay State Park will guarantee a good time. Soak in a natural hot spring with the highest mineral content in the world? That would be Crystal Hot Springs. You'll feel rejuvenated. Eat at Utah's original steakhouse. Maddox Ranch House is perfection. Check. A 1920s diner. The Idle Owl Cafe will transport you back in time. As you empty your Box Elder County bucket list, you'll find a whole new set of adventures to fill it up again. Fill up your bucket list at visitboxeldercounty.com.
Recovery is deeply personal and can look different for everyone. Recovery takes more than persistence and resilience. It takes support. Get help navigating your recovery journey, no matter where you are. Every step you take to navigate substance use and mental health challenges can help you reach your recovery goals. And staying connected to treatment and support makes long-term success more likely. Visit samhsa.gov/recoverme to find support and create a recovery plan that works for you.
Millions of Americans take medicine like Ozempic and Zepbound. Many of them are overpaying by thousands of dollars a year. These GLP-1 medications for diabetes, weight loss, and more may not always be covered by your insurance, but GoodRx can help. GoodRx helps you save every month on prescriptions at over 70,000 pharmacies nationwide. Best of all, it's free to use. Check GoodRx to save on GLP-1s. Just go to goodrx.com/GLP. That's goodrx.com/GLP. GoodRx is not insurance but can be used instead of insurance, including Medicare and other federal and state-funded programs.
Do you suffer from depression? The Department of Psychiatry at the University of Utah is currently seeking people between the ages of 18 and 65 who have depression to take part in a comprehensive treatment study. The goal of this study is to see if 2 naturally occurring supplements will improve depression in people living at higher altitudes. Participants will take the supplements for 8 weeks, and the study lasts 12 weeks in total. Participants must already be taking an SSRI or an SNRI medication for at least 8 weeks. Compensation will be provided to study participants. Again, if you are between the ages of 18 and 65 and suffer from depression that hasn't responded to usual antidepressants, the University of Utah is conducting a study that may help. For more information or to take part, please call 801-581-3475 or visit altitudedepressionstudy.com. That's 801-581-3475. or altitudedepressionstudy.com.
Any Hour Services can make sure your AC keeps you cool this summer. Whether you need a tune-up, repair, or just a second opinion about replacing it, call Any Hour Services or visit anyhourservices.com.
Mom and Dad used to argue about everything, especially about Dad's drinking. It drove me crazy. It got so bad, I couldn't do my homework. I couldn't concentrate. I absolutely refused to let any of my friends come to our house for any reason. I would have been humiliated if anyone found out how much my dad drank and how loud my mom screamed at him. My family went from totally crazy to quiet, calm, and even peaceful. The only thing that happened is my mom started going to Al-Anon family groups. Her relationship with my dad really changed. I asked Mom if she would take me to her Al-Anon meetings or to Alateen. I wanted to see if I could have a better relationship with my dad. I'm sure glad I did. If someone's drinking troubling you, you might be surprised at what you can learn in an Al-Anon or Alateen family group from people just like you. Call 1-888-4-ALANON or go to alanon.org.
Most of us like to be out in the sun. That's why sunscreen and other safety measures are key to protecting your skin from aging and cancer. The FDA recommends using a sunscreen with a sun protection factor, or SPF, of 15 or higher. Also, look for broad spectrum on the label. That means both harmful ultraviolet A and B rays are blocked. UVA rays age the skin, UVB rays burn, and both cause cancer. But the perfect sunscreen doesn't count if you use it wrong. Don't need sunscreen on a cloudy day? Wrong. 80% of UV rays still get through the haze. Only use sunscreen at the beach? Nope. Anytime you're outside, UV rays attack the skin, so you need protection. And you have to reapply sunscreen every 2 hours. Remember, SPF plus broad spectrum equal healthy fun in the sun. Visit www.fda.gov/sunscreen for more information. A message from the U.S. Food and Drug Administration.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources.
So we're following up on this concept of adulting, and that it's the idea that young people become adults, and there are 4 metrics, according to the study that we're looking at, to describe or to sort of give us a handle on when kids are adulting. 1, moving out of their parents' house. That makes sense. 2, getting a job. 3, getting married. And 4, having kids. And what we're learning is that between now and 50 years ago, that number has actually decreased. The number of people who are choosing
who've made all four
to move out. Yes.
Yeah, to make
some
those
of them,
4
some of
milestones.
the metrics are different. They've ebbed and flowed. But yes, in terms of people hitting all 4 of those markers, the numbers are way down.
Yeah, they are. And I was thinking about what did I consider adulting milestones. So when I got my first car loan, that was an adulting milestone. I did leave my house when I was 17. I graduated with my first degree. It was an associate degree when I was 19, and then I bought my first car. And I did not know what I was doing, and guess what the interest rate was on that? And this would have been 1985.
High? Like 11%?
It was 18%.
Yeah. I mean, people complaining about these 6% mortgage rates and 7% car rates are like, holy cow.
But yeah, I mean, I got married, I had kids, and then I think one of the really big, I guess this was the final milestone in my head of being an actual adult, is when we bought our first house, and I would have been like 26 or 27.
Yeah. We want to hear from you. Are your adult children struggling to launch? And are you okay with them staying at home? Call us at 801-575-TALK, TALK, or text us at 57500. I guess you and I have similar experiences, and my experience with my own children was they didn't necessarily, trying to get out of the house as soon as they could, but none of them really hesitated.
Yeah.
For one thing, we sent them all the way to college, so that's sort of a launch that, they don't necessarily come back once a kid's out and going to college. That I found that to be not that I wanted my kids out of the house, but it was a kick in the pants.
Not all of my kids left home to go attend post high school education. In fact, several are still at home who are doing that, and we just have a variety of combinations, and we have all a large number of kids, and they've done different things. But one of the things this research showed is that there's a lot more metrics, I guess, to look at for what constitutes a milestone in adulting. And that, again, in 1975, it was those 4 metrics. But now what they're saying is there's at least 5 different combinations. There's more than that, of course, but the most common 5 combinations. First of all, they all include having a job. But second of all, it is like this combination of 2. So the most common, and this is 28% of those ages 25 to 34, is that they do have a job and they live away from parents.
Yeah.
Right? So that's the most common combination.
When we talk about living comfortably and being able to support yourself, a recent study in The Hill found that a family of 4 with a household income of under $200,000 could only afford to live comfortably in 7 states, and Utah is not one of those states.
No, we are not. No, we're not.
Those are states where the cost of living for a year is under $200,000. Mississippi, Kentucky, Arkansas, Alabama, West Virginia, South Dakota, and Louisiana, all under $200,000. Utah's annual household income to live comfortably is $218,000.
And I would like to know how many people actually meet that mark. And I think that the number is not very high. Okay, we do have a couple of more texts. So this one says, my son and his wife just placed an offer on their first home. They lived with her parents for a year to save money. They moved in initially because it took 5 months for my son to get a job after earning his master's degree. Home prices are high. Interest rates are high. This makes taking this step increasingly difficult. Yep, no disagreement there.
And what I've found, at least in my own experience dealing with clients and friends and people, is that there are more kids going back home after having been out. Even some that had been married, have a child or two, and they're deciding, for financial or other reasons, I need to go back and save some money.
That was our case with our kids that were married that lived with us, as they had lived outside of our home, married, and then they moved back in to save money, just like that texter. We have another one too. Hey, this is Connor, who turned 21, he says, and just moved from Rexburg to Layton into some new apartments. He says, luckily, I was right about opportunity. Now I'm on my way to becoming an electrician. So people my age, not in college, you can do it, he says.
You can do it if you've got a decent job. Even rent in Utah has gone
oh my gosh, through the roof.
And I know that there's this whole independence, and we could all just, getting a car, moving out of the house, getting your own place. Those are the cool things that you want to do. Getting a job, doing, sort of having that freedom. It comes at a cost.
When my husband and I were first married, and neither one of our families lived in Utah, so it wasn't really even an option. But when we moved into our first apartment, it had 2 bedrooms, it had a dishwasher, and it had air conditioning, which were things that were all on my must-have list. Right, I'm very spoiled. $385 a month.
Yeah.
Right.
And now you look at what you spend. Just
Even
on
for a basement apartment that you share with other people, you're not going to do it.
You probably spend that on a week in groceries.
Yeah, that's
let
right.
alone a month.
All right. So another texter. With the cost of higher education, some would not be able to afford to move out at least until graduation. And then one says, my 18-year-old stepson won't even drive. That's the product of a helicopter parent. So, but I will say this. I don't think I was a helicopter parent. And I had several kids who didn't want to drive, especially not as teenagers. And I'll tell you, one of them, she was 16 and right on the cusp of getting a driver's license when she had a friend die in a car accident. And the friend was a teenage driver, was going too fast for a curve, rolled the car, died on the scene. And she's like, that's it, I'm done. And wouldn't drive until she was like 19.
I'm surprised at the number of young people in this day and age that don't seem all that interested in getting a driver's license. To me, at the time, I mean, when I was 15 and a half, you get that learner's permit.
Right.
You want to be driving
It's not adulting, but it's getting closer.
16th birthday, you're down at DMV getting your license, and at 15 and a half, that's what the law was back in those days. You could drive with someone adult in the car. They called it a learner's permit.
Yeah.
Maybe they still do.
Still in Utah, but it's got to be like a parent.
And my kids were all the same way. I don't know, I'm trying to recollect, but it seemed like they all wanted to drive when they were 16.
Yeah, like I said, not all of mine did. And some of it was safety. They're just like, no, I'm too afraid. And look, I tried to teach my oldest son how to drive. It was a terrifying exercise. I never did that again. But every second he drove, I was like, oh my gosh, we're going to die. We're going to die. We're going to die.
But I do ask people, when you deal with clients and people that you're just meeting about, driver's license, why don't you have a driver's license? And some people just said, I never got around to it. I just never did. And they're in their 20s or 30s and never needed it. I mean, I can't go a day without driving.
Yeah. Look, we have a couple of other texts. So one of them, this is another one about multi-generational living, which actually I think is becoming more common here, but it's very common in some cultures and in some states.
Yes.
So this one says, we moved in with my in-laws and split the house payment in half. Once it's paid off, they want to go travel and we'll inherit the house. 10 years of doing so, but the house is big enough. We have our own living spaces. That's a good idea.
That's
actually.
A great idea.
Yeah.
Yes. And then mom and dad can go travel, see the world, and you've got a place to live.
Yeah. And then another one, I chose to rent a room from someone to save money for a bit so I could save money instead of throwing it all at rent. Hitting the reset button at 30 so I can maybe someday buy a house.
Yeah. And then you've got people like my youngest who rents out part of their house on Airbnb or whatever.
Oh,
They have people that supplement their income. I mean, I couldn't even imagine doing that when I was younger, just going in somebody's house and renting a room.
Yeah, but things are a lot different now, right?
It's entirely different.
Don't take rides from strangers. Hey, Uber, hello, here I am.
Right,
yeah.
yes.
Yeah. So those are the paper, again, that we're talking about, these milestones, these 4 milestones of moving out of your parents' house, having a job, getting married, and having kids. There are people who call that the success combination. It really is graduating from high school, not necessarily moving out of your parents' house. But one of the things that they looked at is how many have achieved all 4 major milestones. We mentioned that at the beginning of last segment. So it was almost 50% 50 years ago. Now it's only about 21%. But we also had, interestingly, about the same proportion of young adults who were married, live away from home, and working, and that's not having kids. So in 1975, that was about 15%, and in 2025, it's about 14%.
It's an interesting conversation because I've been thinking of it as a step backwards, but I'm not sure it is. That less people are reaching those milestones. There are all kinds of reasons, as we've talked about, finances, economics, those kind of things, and just the whole idea of maybe staying at home, maybe
you reach them at different times too.
Multi-generational
right?
family isn't the end of the world. So it's an interesting stat. I guess I've been sort of thinking of it as a bad stat, but the more I'm listening, especially to you, it does. It's not a bad thing at all.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be. It's just something that is different. It's certainly a shift.
When we come back, you've probably heard of quiet quitting and maybe even quiet firing, but have you heard of quiet cracking? I haven't. But we'll be talking to a labor attorney about this latest trend at work when we come back.
10:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Andy Farnsworth. KSL's top local story this hour. A man was arrested after police say he started shooting at officers from inside the Park City Gun Club. The Summit County Sheriff's Office says this happened early yesterday morning. The man then took off, leading officers on a chase. It ended when the suspect crashed near Trailside Bike Park and then eventually surrendered to a SWAT team. Our top national story this hour from ABC News, a man who the courts say were mistakenly sent to El Salvador, a detention facility, is once again back in ICE custody. Kilmar Abrego Garcia was ordered by a judge to be freed a few days ago from a detention facility in Tennessee, but this morning ICE detained him again after he appeared before a judge in Baltimore.
They do not have the right to put him on an airplane, and that's what we're going to be asking the district court to ensure, that he is not put on any flight to any country whatsoever, whether it's Uganda, South Sudan, what have you, unless and until he has had a full and fair trial in an immigration court as well as his full appeal rights.
His attorneys say there is little to no information about where ICE is taking Garcia now. The Tabernacle Choir at Temple Square is returning home after wrapping up a week in Argentina as part of their world tour. The choir performed 3 concerts in Buenos Aires, where they also celebrated 100 years of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in South America. Concertgoers spoke with KSL TV.
Grateful for this experience because so good, the spirit here. I'm feeling good.
The choir invited several local artists to perform with them. Their next stop in the tour will be in Sao Paulo, Brazil this February. Your money at this moment. The market was down earlier. Let's see what it has right now. It's now down 230 points, which is 0.5% to 45,400. Coming up, we finally get the rain that's been threatening. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time 10:32.
A reminder about the simplest way to get updated for your day.
Hit your KSL preset when you jump in the car, and we'll take care of the rest.
Hear key news updates and traffic reports.
Andy and Amanda from 5 to 9 in your car.
KSL News Radio at 102.7 FM.
Hi, this is Doug Wright. For years now, I've been telling you about Connecticut soft water systems that use 2/3 less salt than the others. But I've never told you exactly how they do that. Well, there are several ways, so consider this as part 1 in a series. Most of the softeners out there use a finicky, hard-to-adjust computer to guesstimate when to cycle, and it errs on the side of cycling too often, which means it'll burn through way too much salt way too soon. Connecticut is different. It has an all-mechanical system that measures the water precisely. No computer, no guesstimating, so it cycles only when needed. The result, Connecticut delivers perfectly soft water 24/7 using minimal salt. So why not save your lower back from carrying the 3 bags of salt when all you need is 1? Call Northern Utah's authorized Connecticut dealer, Connecticut Quality Water Systems of Salt Lake. Call them now, 801-576-8600, or log on to softwaterutah.com and tell them Doug sent you.
This is the story of the one. As a lineman, he does whatever it takes to keep the power on in his community. And he wants a partner like Grainger who does the same. Grainger offers the professional-grade products he needs, from voltage detectors to harnesses to hard hats, plus fast, dependable delivery, so he can rise to every challenge. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
This is the story of the one. As a safety manager at a manufacturing plant, he does everything he can to keep his coworkers safe. From finding ways to reduce risks to keeping safety supplies in stock. And for that, he relies on Grainger. Grainger offers a broad range of quality products and next-day delivery, so he can always play it safe. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
For nearly 70 years, Les Olson IT has been the trusted name for businesses. From state-of-the-art printers and copiers to managed IT services, we have the solutions you need to stay ahead in today's world. And now Les Olson IT is trusted and licensed in Utah for security systems, for technology that helps you work smarter. Les Olson IT, providing solutions that empower your business.
Les Olson IT.
Traffic and weather together is brought to you by Mountain America's My Style checking account. Here's Heather Kelly.
Well, the only problem we have on the boards right now across the Wasatch Front is the closure of the ramp that'll take you from State Street, if you enter State Street onto westbound 80, and then take the ramp that'll take you to northbound I-15. That ramp is shut down. So if you enter from State Street onto westbound 80, you're forced to continue on to westbound 201 or southbound I-15. If you don't want to do that, you'll want to find an alternate route if you're heading north into Salt Lake City. Otherwise, you've got good speeds on the rest of the I-15 corridor throughout Utah, Salt Lake, and Davis counties, both directions. No problems on the east or west side belt routes or going through Parley's Canyon. Common Spirit hospitals, clinics, and caregivers all connected to advanced healthcare in Colorado, Kansas, and Utah. Healthcare with Human Kindness is here. Hello, Human Kindness. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather today. Rain showers are going to pick up this afternoon. We could see scattered showers over the next several days. Today's high is going to be around 89. That's the warmest it'll be for the next 7. Right now, it's hovering between 73 and 74 degrees in Salt Lake City and mostly cloudy skies. I'm Andy Farnsworth from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
Okay, Holly, I surrender, and I need some help with this. Quiet quitting, quiet firing, and now quiet cracking. I guess quiet cracking is a new concept, but I need some help with the first two.
Okay. So quiet quitting is when people basically disengage at work because they're like done. It can be burnout. It can look like burnout. It can be that they're searching for other jobs. So they haven't technically quit, but they're
checked out.
They're checked out.
They're not doing anything.
So quiet firing, and I've written about this in the past, quiet firing is coming from the other side where the employer doesn't actually want to fire them and say, oh, you're fired. They want to make the environment so toxic that their employees go ahead and quit, right? So that's quiet firing. And that can look like things like giving you an assignment so you have responsibility but no authority to complete it.
Right. Or not giving you any assignments.
Right.
Just that you not do anything at all.
Right. So you have a title but you have no work, and then you get docked for not doing work. I mean, it's stuff like that where it just makes it really toxic and you end up, your employees leave. So there's a new term, as you mentioned, quiet cracking. And we are going to talk with Nancy Sylvester. She's the labor and employment. She is a labor and employment counsel for Ogletree Deacons, who is Utah's employer lawyers, and she wants to talk to us about what quiet cracking is and what that means in the workforce. Hi, Nancy.
Hi. Thanks for having me, Holly. Appreciate it. So let's talk about quiet cracking. So this is kind of an interesting topic that's been coming up. And you're seeing this on TikTok, of course. So this is basically this idea of persistent unhappiness in the workplace, less engagement, poor performance, a desire to quit, but maybe they haven't gotten there quite yet. So kind of contrast that with quiet quitting. So an employee is still doing their job, but they've just kind of decided to stop doing more than what's in their job description. So they're related animals, but they, this one, I think as we talk about quiet cracking, this is just a new term for the same old thing, right? Like it's just, we're starting to disengage. We're having a little bit of burnout. Maybe you cry on the way to work. So, but it's coming up because things go viral on TikTok, right? So that's what the younger generation is using to describe this. And it's certainly not only a younger generation thing, although I think they're very good at describing how they feel about a workplace they don't want to be at, right?
And Nancy, all of these make the workplace so much less efficient, correct?
Oh, totally. Yeah, no, it makes it harder on everybody, right? And so have you heard of the Gen Z stare? That's another one that is coming up on TikTok.
No, please tell us.
Yeah, let me tell you about that. So it refers to this kind of blank, vacant expression that Gen Z tends to give in response to a question or statement. So it can be misinterpreted very, very easily. It can be misinterpreted as a sign of disinterest, social anxiety, deliberate refusal to perform, emotional labor. And so you can see this, in, for example, like customer service. But I think both of these are opportunities for employers. So, when you start to see this quiet cracking or quiet quitting or the Gen Z stare, that's really just an opportunity to have a discussion and have some mentoring and training and make sure that you are really prioritizing your engaged workforce. So that's helpful, obviously, for productivity. You know, Greg mentioned it. We want to have productive workplaces. We want to have employees that feel like they're part of the mission. But also, you know, I'm a lawyer. I'm going to talk about lawyer things, right? So that, you know, we can have some liability if you've got a workplace that's just disengaging, right? I mean, people aren't going to be following policies as much. Maybe you're going to have some harassment issues. You know, maybe there are just things that you're overlooking. Perhaps even some of this is related to like a disability issue. Now, that's not going to be true for everybody in the workplace, but, you know, this does invite some conversations, which is actually what the law requires. So when you suspect there may be a disability.
Yeah. So Nancy, one of the things that I have seen is Gallup does a national and international poll every year on workplace engagement. And earlier this year, they said that U.S. employee engagement sank to a 10-year low with only 31% of employees feeling engaged at their work, which seems like it's not even a third, right, that are feeling totally engaged by their work. But I wonder if you could speak to the financial cost to quiet cracking or quiet quitting.
Oh, sure. I mean, that's a huge cost to employers, right? If you've got less engagement, then you're having less work productivity overall, right? But also this is, you know, this creates financial costs for the workforce as well, because, you know, when you're less engaged, that can actually lead to health issues, right? And so that can also have this kind of impact on them just in kind of some other ways. But, you know, employers are incentivized to have an engaged workforce because that just simply means, you know, if you're creating widgets, you know, we like to use that term in law school, you know, you're going to have more widgets that are being created. So, and that's a really helpful thing. But also, I think, too, if you've got even one person who's kind of starting to disengage or expressing unhappiness, that actually can lead to larger issues in the workplace as a whole, right? Because that's kind of, I don't want to call it a virus, but maybe kind of, you know, is that people, if one person is unhappy, then other people can start to feel unhappy as they get that kind of vibe from that other person. So I think so overall, I think you're going to see a reduction in productivity, but also potentially lost profits for those businesses that are profitable and maybe lost services by having a less engaged workforce.
So Nancy, how do you advise your employers, your clients who are employers, when they have staff or employees who are quietly cracking or quietly quitting? I mean, what can you tell them are appropriate workforce things workplace things they can do?
Sure. I think that this is always an opportunity to work on some more, just better management, better training, better mentoring. So, for example, like, we've been talking about Gen Z. I have a Gen Z daughter, and I know she's happiest when she feels invested in the work she's doing. When she feels valued, it's a night and day difference. And so being valued isn't just giving, you know, somebody an extra cookie, right? That's not it. It really is. It's setting good boundaries, helping people to invest in the mission of the organization. It's having, you know, like I said, good training and mentoring opportunities. And so, and the law really it sets the floor on this. You know, it says you need to engage with your workforce, but then employers really have this opportunity to make an even more engaged workforce, and that can prevent some of these liabilities, you know, in the legal setting. And so when I talk about those, for example, you know, as I'm advising employers, we want our employees to be following policies, right? Because policies not only help the organization thrive, and but it also helps to, you know, maintain good boundaries, and it makes sure that, you know, you don't have lawsuits that are coming up. And so that's what I advise employers, is that, you know, make sure that you're engaging with your workforce because they're more likely to follow your policies, which is going to be helpful in many ways.
So we only have about 20 seconds, Nancy, but what can you advise the employees that are feeling like they're cracking? What can they do?
So employees who feel like they're cracking, I would bring it up to your management, and I would ask for some more training and mentoring, and just saying, you know, I need a little bit extra so that I can do my job. I'm not feeling as engaged, and have that conversation. And I think most employers are going to feel like that's a good conversation to have because they want to have a good productive workforce. And so have the conversation and know that an employer is going to appreciate that you're taking ownership in your job.
Yeah. Thank you for joining us.
Good
That was
advice.
Nancy Sylvester. So, look, here's something I hadn't thought of, dorm insurance. We'll learn about that when we come back after the break by talking to somebody from Bankrate. So stay with us. We're streaming live on KSLNewsRadio.com, and we're on the app for KSL News Radio, sponsored by At Your Service Pros.
Whether you're building your $1 million dream home, giving your current home a facelift, or just trying to get it out of the minor leagues, Peach Windows and Doors brings the big league look.
Modern style, energy efficiency, clean lines, tough builds, and curb appeal that hits like a home run. Not sure what you need? No sweat. Peach has the coaching staff to get your home in the game. No pressure, no gimmicks, just solid game plans and pro-level results to help you knock it out of the park.
Come see for yourself big, beautiful windows that bring the outside in. Visit Peach Windows and Doors showroom, big enough to spark ideas, small enough to feel right at home. It's time to step up your game and make your house the MVP of the neighborhood. Why live in the minor leagues when you can swing like $1 million? Peach Windows and Doors, because real homes play like champions. Visit peachdoorsandwindows.com or call 801-566-1255 for your free consultation.
That's Peach Windows and Doors. Give them a call, 801-566-1255.
You trust us for news and information in your car. Now trust us at home. KSL News Radio has you covered, keeping you informed on the latest breaking news, weather, traffic, sports, and more. Listen on your Amazon Echo or Google Home device. Just say, Alexa, open KSL News Radio. Or listen on the KSL News Radio Listen app. Text the word app to 57500. KSL News Radio. We have you covered.
You're listening to Leaf Filter Radio, and the guru of gutter protection himself, Chris Coonahan, is here to take your most pressing leaf-related questions.
Hey, everybody, Chris here. I understand we have Ron on the line. Ron, where are you calling from?
Uh-oh. Ron, are you calling from a ladder?
Well, I was. I wanted to ask Chris what I need to do to get my gutters ready to have Leaf Filter installed.
Oh, Ron, you don't have to do anything. A Leaf Filter Trusted Pro will come out and clean out your gutters, realign and seal your gutters, and install Leaf Filter, America's #1 gutter protection system.
So I didn't need to get on this ladder?
Ron, Leaf Filter Trusted Pros are in your neighborhood and ready to help. Just visit leaffilter.com/deal to schedule your free gutter inspection and get up to 30% off.
Thank goodness. What was that site?
That's leaffilter.com/deal for your free gutter inspection today. See representative for warranty details. Promotion is 20% off plus a 10% senior or military discount. One discount per household.
This is Andy Farnsworth with One Kind Act a Day's Minute of Kindness, brought to you by the Semnani Family Foundation. In Mill Creek, 3 Utah centenarians, Esther Orr at 104 and Ed Tully and Jerry Pace, both 100, came together to reflect on a century of life, love, and lessons. They grew up during the Great Depression, when joy came from neighborhood games and 10-cent movie nights. Each faced the uncertainty of World War II, Tully on the front lines, Orr at the Pentagon, and Pace managing life back home. Through hardship, they discovered the power of perseverance and community. After the war, their lives centered on love, family, and service. Long marriages and deep devotion shaped their stories. Esther credits her longevity to attitude. Ed says healthy habits matter, just don't skip dessert. With over 300 years of combined wisdom, they remind us that kindness, resilience, and purpose never go out of style. What lessons from older generations can help guide us through the challenges today? Find out more at thepowerofkind.org. That's thepowerofkind.org.
Getting help with plumbing repairs is easier than you think. All you have to do is call Any Hour Services or schedule an appointment at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
When it comes to vaping, the truth can get clouded. So let's make it clear. Vaping is not safe for kids, teens, or young adults. It's just not.
Because vaping can put microscopic particles into your lungs.
And dangerous things like metals and volatile organic compounds into your body.
And nicotine, the same highly addictive substance found in regular cigarettes.
Nicotine can harm a person's brain development through their mid-20s.
Affecting learning, memory, attention, and impulse control, and priming the brain for other addictions.
Vaping products also come in kid-friendly flavors that can make them appealing to youth.
And many kids also use other drugs, like marijuana, in vaping devices.
With appealing flavors, high nicotine levels, and lots of promotion on social media,
many kids think vaping is harmless, but it's not.
So talk to your kids about the risks of vaping, because when you talk, they hear you.
For more information, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
The new Inside Sources.
We had a couple texters join us after the segment. We just talked about quiet cracking and quiet quitting, and one or two of them were really interesting. Holly, could you just read those for us?
Yeah. So one person said he's quiet retiring, so not quitting, but he shows up for work, but he's quiet retiring. And then another one who is a business owner says that they find that with their company, Gen Z is impossible to please, that they want work and jobs that are, quote, fun and give them purpose. This person says most jobs in life do not do that and will never do that. Add to that they are a generation of rebels who have issue with any kind of rules and regulations and boundaries. They're a huge risk, creating problems and potential lawsuits such that I do everything I can not to hire them.
Okay.
All right, Gen Z.
We're just quoting someone here.
Yeah, right.
So, I had never heard of quiet cracking or even quiet quitting until today, but I've also never considered the concept of dorm insurance.
Right.
In other words, you send your kid to college, they're living in the dorm. Should you get them dorm insurance? I guess I never even considered that.
I hadn't either until today. And so I guess that tells you how far behind the times we are. So we have Bankrate insurance analyst Ari Hawley on the line with us. Thanks for joining us, Ari.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Can you tell our listeners and us, what is dorm insurance?
Absolutely, and I'll tell you right now, you're actually not behind the times. A lot of people haven't heard about dorm insurance, but it's actually a pretty familiar product because it's essentially a renter's insurance policy that applies to a dorm room. So it's a really standard type of insurance. We're seeing a lot more college students and families sending their kids to college investing in this particular kind of insurance.
So I guess the lawyer in me makes me wonder if let's say you have something stolen from your dorm room, to what extent is the university already on the hook for that? Or is that why you would get dorm insurance?
That's really why you'd get dorm insurance, because the university is not necessarily on the hook for that. That's going to be just theft of private property. And so that's where dorm insurance comes in to actually fill a coverage gap that a lot of people have. So if you have home insurance, you actually might already have coverage for that, but coverage limits can be low. And if you don't already have home insurance, let's say you don't own a home, you only have your own renter's policy. If you don't have that separate dorm insurance policy, you could be out a significant amount of money in the case of, let's say, theft, fire, all kinds of crazy events.
So what are the benefits then to both the parents and the students to adding this dorm insurance?
The big benefit is peace of mind, that you have this coverage in place so that if those things happen, right, dorm fire, theft, things like that, you know that you have the coverage, that you're not going to have to suddenly be faced with replacing all of your students' possessions out of pocket. And that can be a pretty significant expense. So it's really about having kind of that coverage in place and not needing to worry about it.
Can you have a dorm insurance that includes coverage for people who are maybe injured or harmed while they're in your dorm?
Absolutely. And that's a great question, because some of the dorm insurance products that are being offered, especially right when your kid is signing up for housing, those may not actually have coverage for liability. You'll often see dorm insurance that only includes coverage for your personal property. So that's a question, if you're considering this kind of insurance, you'll want to ask, hey, does this have liability coverage? Is that something I can add, or is that something that's already included? Because that's a pretty important part of coverage for college students.
What about if they leave the dorms and they move into, say, an off-campus apartment, but they're still college students full-time?
They can get a renter's insurance policy for that apartment. It's going to be really quite similar. And that's actually a really important kind of transition to be aware of if you don't already have renter's insurance for their dorm. Home insurance is not going to extend to your kids once they have kind of their own permanent address. So that's when you really want to be aware of coverage that might not apply any longer.
So given that, maybe there's not much of a difference between renter's insurance and dorm insurance. If you're renting a place, whether it's on or off campus, I mean, are there differences in terms of the insurance itself?
In terms of the insurance itself, the biggest difference is that dorm insurance often doesn't include that liability portion. So again, that's something that you really want to be aware of. But the coverage itself tends to be really similar. Dorm insurance that's sort of marketed towards college students versus renter's insurance that's marketed more broadly, you're getting really similar benefits.
Do you have any kind of numbers for how many people are taking advantage of dorm insurance?
We don't have specific numbers. We know that it's becoming more and more common because it's something like 600 or more colleges and universities are actually partnering with insurance providers to kind of offer this to incoming students as they come in. And that's definitely a new trend. That was not happening when I was in college. And so we're going to start to see, I think, more and more students taking advantage of this coverage.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that. Is the trend toward more renter's insurance, more dorm insurance than we've had in the past because of, I don't know, things that are going on right now?
Yeah, we're certainly seeing a little bit of that trend. We're also, I think it goes in line with just generally a trend towards renting, especially for younger generations. There's more awareness that renter's insurance is something that is a pretty important investment. If you're renting, if you're in a dorm, particularly if there isn't a kind of family home insurance policy covering you.
What kind of incidences are we seeing on college campuses where this would be, something that would be needed? Fire or theft or something like that?
Those are the two biggest instances. And we're seeing quite a lot of that on college campuses. I mean, if you've been on a campus, there's a lot of opportunity for chaos. But in terms of kind of events that can cause really significant loss to your property, fire and theft are really right at the top.
And does, I know we're torturing you with questions here, but you've been great. Does dorm insurance include, let's say my dorm room gets flooded and I need to stay somewhere else for a little while?
Great question. Often it won't. This is another one of those, kind of hand in hand with liability that products that are marketed specifically as dorm insurance often won't include that kind of loss of use coverage that you're describing, where, dorm room is burnt, trashed, there's no way to live there, you need a different place. That's where, again, you might want to look for a more traditional renter's insurance policy and ask if that's something that can be included in your coverage if you're concerned about that extra expense.
Yeah, that's interesting. So it sounds to me like this is something that's on the rise. And look, when I think about sending my kids off to school, as a parent, I'm not as concerned about replacing towels or even clothes, but it's like the laptop and their electronics and stuff, just paying out of pocket for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a huge expense. And that's something that, if you're a family that's kind of weighing this decision, hey, do we need dorm insurance? We've never heard of that. Taking stock of what you would actually have to replace is a pretty big part of making that decision and asking, could I actually afford it if there was a fire in that dorm?
We're speaking this morning with Bankrate insurance analyst R.E. Holly. And just last question, if I'm a parent and I've got a kid going off to college, how do I find out about dorm insurance? I mean, who do you contact?
So you'll often find out about it through the college. We've got a lot of colleges and universities that are partnering with specific companies for dorm insurance. So you can definitely reach out to their customer service. But it's also a really good idea, if you have an insurance agent, talk to your agent. Ask about your current coverage. See if you actually have coverage for that student already. And ask about other products. Do you need dorm insurance? Do you need renter's insurance? And just speaking to an insurance professional is a fantastic way to figure out what your coverage needs actually are.
Thank you so much for joining us today. That was super interesting conversation with R.E. Holly from Bankrate.
It's something I never even considered when I sent my kids to college because I just assumed the university would have been responsible. But luckily, we never had a problem, so it never came up. But looking back, I probably would have considered it.
Yeah, that's an interesting conversation. And again, I hadn't considered it either, but maybe that's just because we weren't paying enough attention.
and I guess I also, and she explained it pretty well, but dorm insurance and renter's insurance are similar. Just
are similar.
But you're in the university environment, so you tweak it to fit that model that you're there at the university, and so the dorm it's probably I'm just guessing. I would assume dorm insurance would be slightly cheaper than renter's insurance, but who knows? When we come back, the White House says they have more than 2,200 troops deployed throughout Washington, D.C. to stop crime. Now the president is looking at other cities, including Chicago and Baltimore. Stay with us on KSL News Radio. You can stream us on the KSL News Radio app, sponsored by Your Service Pros.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
It's 11 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Britt Johnson. KSL's top story this hour. The Box Elder School District is closing all their schools on Thursday and Friday to give students and staff the option to attend the funerals for the 2 officers killed in Tremonton last week. KSL News Radio's Randall Jepson has more.
The school district says they know a lot of people would have been absent on Thursday and Friday if school were in session. So instead, they're canceling school those days, saying it should be a time set aside for the community to come together. They're also encouraging students and staff to use those days to honor, reflect, and connect with those around you.
The district schools will be on early out schedule on Wednesday ahead of the officers' viewing at Bear River High School that afternoon. A paraglider has been taken to the hospital this morning after he crashed at Mount Timpanogos. The Utah County Sheriff's Search and Rescue Team was called in to assist just before 9 o'clock. They decided to hoist him out and take him via life flight for a possible broken leg. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. Don't be surprised if your health insurance premiums go up next year. ABC's Sherry Preston explains.
After many years of relative stability, the health insurance market right now is in a period of uncertainty, says Larry Levitt, an executive vice president at the nonprofit KFF, which studies healthcare. Higher costs for prescriptions and more expensive medical treatments are driving up costs for insurers and employers. That could leave patients paying more for doctor visits and medicines, especially for those who get individual coverage through the marketplaces, where insurers are predicting the government will end some of the support that now helps people buy coverage. Sherry Preston, ABC News.
Your money at this moment, a little bit of a mixed market. The Dow is in the red, 228 points. The S&P is off 5 points, but the NASDAQ has gained 47 points. Coming up, we're finally getting some rain. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 11:01.
The sources where we get our news matters.
When you listen to Utah's Morning News, we want you to feel the stories are important to you and trustworthy. This is Amanda Dixon.
And I'm Andy Farnsworth. Join us weekday mornings on KSL News Radio.
Hi, this is Doug Wright. For years now, I've been telling you about Connecticut soft water systems that use 2/3 less salt than the others. But I've never told you exactly how they do that. Well, there are several ways, so consider this as part 1 in a series. Most of the softeners out there use a finicky, hard-to-adjust computer to guesstimate when to cycle, and it errs on the side of cycling too often, which means it'll burn through way too much salt way too soon. Connecticut is different. It has an all-mechanical system that measures the water precisely. No computer, no guesstimating, so it cycles only when needed. The result, Connecticut delivers perfectly soft water 24/7 using minimal salt. So why not save your lower back from carrying the 3 bags of salt when all you need is 1? Call Northern Utah's authorized Connecticut dealer, Connecticut Quality Water Systems of Salt Lake. Call them now, 801-576-8600, or log on to softwaterutah.com and tell them Doug sent you.
Tonight on KSL, starting this year, Utah teachers finally have paid maternity leave.
Isn't that wild?
But even with maternity leave, there's another big assignment for teachers before they can leave to have their babies. In a job that requires a do-it-yourself mentality, KSL reveals why getting that leave comes with some homework.
You kind of are put in a position where you feel like you have to choose between your family and your work.
DIY teacher maternity leave. Tonight at 10 on KSL and the KSL Plus app.
When you choose Performance Automotive in Bountiful, you're choosing selection, convenience, and exceptional service. With 3 locations, Performance Ford Lincoln, Performance Honda, and Performance Toyota, Performance Automotive is here to serve your needs. Performance Automotive in Bountiful, where excellence comes standard. Start your search at performancebountiful.com.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Mountain America's MyStyle checking account. Here's Heather Kelly.
We still have the closure of the ramp that'll take you from State Street if you go eastbound I-80 and try to merge onto northbound I-15. That connector ramp from westbound 80 to northbound 15, only if you enter from State Street, remains shut down. Looks like it's going to be closed for a very long time. So you definitely want to plan for alternate routes in that area. You can get onto westbound I-80 from 700 East and make the long trek around to the right or to the left that'll take you onto northbound 15 instead. Otherwise, you've got a good drive right now, I-15, the 201 freeway, and I-80 coming out of Tooele County. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
Today through Thursday, expect to see scattered rain showers, possible thunderstorms, and this storm system is also moving in some cooler temperatures with highs in the 80s all week. That's going to feel really nice. Right now it's 75 degrees and cloudy. I'm Britt Johnson from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
It's been about a week or week and a half now since the White House indicated that they were taking over the criminal problem in Washington, D.C. They've now deployed, I think, 2,200 troops in D.C. to stop crime. Now the president is looking at other cities.
Trump also threatening to send troops to Baltimore. Maryland's governor has invited the president to visit the city. He claims Trump is engaging in scare tactics.
The reason that I've asked the president to come and join us is because he seems to enjoy living in this blissful ignorance, these tropes and these 1980 scare tactics.
The authority the president has over the federal district of Washington, D.C. may not extend to cities like Chicago and Baltimore, in states where the governors are Democrats.
Yeah, and he's looking at, I think, 5 cities, including Chicago, Baltimore, New York, Oakland, and Los Angeles, and saying, well, we may have to take over their operations as well.
Can he do that?
Not so easy. So the reason he can do it with D.C. is because it's federal.
Right.
Washington, D.C. is not a state. It's not really even a city to the extent that it's, it does have a mayor and other operations like a city does.
Yeah.
But it's still controlled by Washington, D.C.
Right.
It's
the
still,
legislature.
by the legislature. Right.
Yeah.
But the 10th Amendment to the Constitution says that all powers not explicitly designated to the federal government goes to the states and to the people. Cities derive their powers from state governments, not the federal government. That's
right.
Pretty clear from the 10th Amendment. So what he's talking about here, and you can tell from the voice of this Maryland governor that we just listened to, he's like, you can't do that. And I think it would invite a lawsuit. I know that we had some issues with Los Angeles not long ago with Trump jumping in there and saying, what was it? Gavin Newsom and the Los Angeles mayor saying, keep out of here. We've got things under control.
Right. I mean, look, the 10th Amendment is something that Utah Republicans, especially legislators, love to tout, right? Is basically, you're not the boss of me, right? Unless there's specific powers delegated, then we get to decide. So the fact, of course, that President Trump is saying we're going to maybe take over these 5 cities. They happened to be in states and cities that did not vote for him in the last election. How can you see it as anything other than political retribution, and whether he can even do it or not?
Yeah, and here's more on that very issue from ABC's Jay O'Brien about how Maryland's governor has responded.
Democratic Governor Maryland's Wes Moore told the president, quote, "If you are not willing to walk our communities, keep our name out of your mouth." Trump lashing out, writing, "If Wes Moore needs help, I will send in the troops," which is being done in nearby D.C. and quickly clean up the crime. But this year, Baltimore is also seeing a double-digit decrease in gun violence, homicides, and shootings.
And the same applied to D.C. Their crime rate was down, but again, they don't have the authority that states do.
That's right.
To decide.
That's right.
And especially when you consider, we think of the National Guard being a national entity, but the National Guard for each state is
under the purview of the governor.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's right. And one of the things to me that is more concerning too is over the weekend, National Guard members in D.C. can now they're armed now with service weapons. I think it's just deeply concerning to talk about sending armed guards, whether it's the National Guard or it's military presence, Marines, etc., like we sent Marines into LA, we, meaning the Trump administration,
right?
That you're sending armed forces in to patrol and police American cities. That's troubling to me.
Yeah, President Trump actually did praise the Guard and said, look what they've done so far.
We always have a murder a week. They call it a murder a week. You come here from Iowa, you come here from Indiana, you come here from Idaho, because you're so proud of your country, you love your country, and then you get murdered. Your son gets murdered, your daughter gets murdered, you get murdered. See the media, you get murdered. Many of you have been mugged in Washington, you just don't want to talk about it.
So one of the things that Wes Moore said, and he's the governor of Maryland again, you just heard them say that the rate is going down of a serious crime, but he said the lowest homicide rate in 50 years is what they're looking at right now in Baltimore. It's not like it's this huge problem.
Yeah, and sending in the National Guards, or sending in, now he's got Pete Hegseth saying we'll supply troops into these cities, and I understand a lot of our cities have been overtaken by gangs and by crime. But generally, if we look at, and this is almost a nationwide trend, violent crimes seem to be going down gradually, almost across the nation. And so we don't have this emergency that seems to be driving the president to these executive orders or these proclamations that maybe we could have justified. Maybe, I don't know, we ever could have justified them, but certainly not now.
Well, as I understand it, what the president is doing is saying that there is a national emergency, and that's why he has the authority to issue an executive order sending troops into places where normally he wouldn't be able to.
You know, and he's taking shots at the local administration, the local governors, the cities, saying, if you don't stop crime, I will. I'll come in and do it, and I'll deploy the National Guard. And we will be watching, I think, closely. I think everyone will be watching Washington, D.C. to see post-National Guard versus pre-National Guard. And what will be the crime stats for the second half of 2025 compared to the first half of 2025, looking at that deployment.
Except you have to question whether the stats are going to be accurate.
Right, yes, right, because we know what happened at the last statistician who talked to us about the jobless rate.
So D.C. was saying, the D.C. mayor, and they were saying, look, crime is down here, and basically the Trump administration said, well, we don't believe you. So it's going to look good for the Trump administration. I just don't know how accurate the data is going to be. I mean, you know, they arrested a guy who threw a sandwich, so that is a person who is, I don't know, pretty dangerous.
Trump's also taking a stab at what he's calling cashless bail, and I just want to play this and I want to talk about what it means.
All over the country, cashless bail, we're ending it, but we're starting by ending it in D.C., and that we have the right to do through federalization. Okay, let's go. Could I ask you to say exactly what this is?
Of course. So, as you've consistently identified, sir, cashless bail policies are a key driver of the disorder we see on city streets all over America. Catch and release system allows criminals to keep going back out onto the street and reoffending. What this executive order does, it charges your attorney general with identifying jurisdictions all over the country that have cashless bail policies, and then it withholds or revokes federal funds and grants that are flowing to those jurisdictions to ensure that we're only supporting the people who have reasonable common sense policies around crime.
So my very first question is, what is cashless bail?
Okay, so typically we assume that when a person is arrested, they are presumed innocent. They haven't been convicted of a crime yet. But the law does allow a judge to set bail. That is a something that is posted by the accused to assure their appearance in court. That's the only purpose of bail. And cashless bail simply means you're going to be released on your own recognizance. You don't have to post the bail. You don't have any skin in the game, and that's the problem with cashless bail. We do it a lot in Salt Lake. We do it a lot around the state of Utah. We have an agency called Pretrial Services, and the feds do it too, where they supervise people on their own recognizance. They don't pay bail, they don't pay cash, but they're supervised in some respect, and that has worked really well. You know, if you got arrested tonight or I got arrested tonight, there's unless it was a serious crime, they're not going to have you post bail, because where's Holly Richardson going to go? You know what I mean? You're not going to flee.
I have a passport.
Yeah,
I mean, come on.
Yeah, you go all over the world. That's a bad example. But I mean, you're not a flight risk, and you're not a risk to the community because you've gone whatever without committing a crime. So you probably can continue that. So cashless bail simply means release on your own recognizance. And I think the concern about that is that it doesn't necessarily encourage people to show up in court because they don't have anything to lose if they don't show up.
So Trump, by executive order, said no more cashless bail. Is that correct?
Correct. Well, that's what he's trying to do.
Can he do that?
It seems to be a kind of a separation of powers things, trying to tell the courts what they can do. We'll see how that shakes out.
All right. Well, John Deere, a legacy tractor maker, has announced layoffs at 3 facilities. This comes as the company grapples with the effects of tariffs and declining sales. So we're going to talk about tariffs when we come back.
Worried about market losses? If headlines are keeping you up at night, it's time to take control. Hi, I'm Jeff Jr. with Trajan Wealth, and I know you've worked hard to save. But in times like these, what if can turn into what now? If you're planning to retire or are in retirement, you need a strategy that helps protect your future. At Trajan Wealth, you can capture market gains, protect your account from losses, and guarantee income for life. Right now, you could receive a bonus of up to 30% or annual growth of up to 10% for retirement income. You heard me right. An upfront bonus of up to 30% or annual growth of up to 10%, all guaranteed to boost your lifetime income in retirement. Don't leave your future to chance. Plan with confidence. Call Trajan today at 801-899-7600. That's 801-899-7600.
Annuity guarantees are based on the claims paying ability of the issuing insurance company, DBA, in most states as Trajan Wealth Insurance Solutions.
You're listening to Leaf Filter Radio, and the guru of gutter protection himself, Chris Coonahan, is here to take your most pressing leaf-related questions.
Hey, everybody, Chris here. I understand we have Ron on the line. Ron, where are you calling from?
Uh-oh. Ron, are you calling from a ladder?
Well, I was. I wanted to ask Chris what I need to do to get my gutters ready to have Leaf Filter installed.
Oh, Ron, you don't have to do anything. A Leaf Filter Trusted Pro will come out and clean out your gutters, realign and seal your gutters, and install Leaf Filter, America's #1 gutter protection system.
So I didn't need to get on this ladder?
Ron, Leaf Filter Trusted Pros are in your neighborhood and ready to help. Just visit leaffilter.com/deal to schedule your free gutter inspection and get up to 30% off.
Thank goodness. What was that site?
That's leaffilter.com/deal for your free gutter inspection today. See representative for warranty details. Promotion is 20% off plus a 10% senior or military discount. 1 discount per household.
Do you know the secret to losing up to 1 pound of fat every day? At Salt Lake City Fat Loss, we know the secret. Our doctor-developed, easy-to-follow weight loss program helps you lose weight fast, naturally, and safely with no drugs or injections. No prepackaged meals, bars, shakes, or exercising required. Our program helps reset your metabolism so you can lose weight quickly and keep the weight off for good with an easy-to-follow maintenance plan that includes ongoing personal support. And our program costs half as much and works up to twice as fast than most other programs. Go to slcfatloss.com to schedule your free consultation now.
I'm Jeff Kaplan. I've been on Salt Lake City Fat Loss for a month. I'd never once been hungry. I've already lost 20 pounds and feel fantastic because it's a healthy weight loss plan. And I guess I'm the proof that it works.
Many clients lose 20 to 30 pounds in about a month or two. That's up to a pound per day. Schedule your free consultation now at slcfatloss.com. That's slcfatloss.com. Results may vary.
Tonight on KSL, starting this year, Utah teachers finally have paid maternity leave. Isn't that wild? But even with maternity leave, there's another big assignment for teachers before they can leave to have their babies. In a job that requires a do-it-yourself mentality, KSL reveals why getting that leave comes with some homework.
You kind of are put in a position where you feel like you have to choose between your family and your work.
DIY teacher maternity leave. Tonight at 10 on KSL and the KSL Plus app.
I'm Andrew Saul, Commissioner of Social Security. I'm here to warn you about telephone scammers pretending to be government employees. Some of these scammers may say threatening things like you will be arrested if you don't make payments or provide personal information. Do not fall for these tricks. These calls are not from us. Real Social Security employees will never threaten you for information or money. If you receive a call like this, hang up. Never give the caller your personal information, like your Social Security number or bank account, or send money in any form, cash, gift cards, wire transfers, or prepaid debit cards. Report the call to our law enforcement arm, the Office of the Inspector General at oig.ssa.gov. Share this information with your friends and family.
The average text takes your eyes off the road for about 5 seconds. At highway speeds, that's enough time to travel the length of a football field. Stop texts, stopwrecks.org. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Inside Sources.
I guess it was only a matter of time, but certain segments of our economy have been hit harder than others by the tariffs that the administration has imposed. John Deere, the legacy tractor maker, has announced layoffs at 3 facilities as that company grapples with tariffs and declining sales.
Yeah, one of the things that they've said, in fact, I saw this article, a deer in the tariff headlights. Clever, yes. Right? DEERE. Right. So, we just keep, I guess we just keep having these conversations about, well, when are the tariffs going to hit? Well, they are hitting, right? They are hitting. And so the Deere company says that they expect that the pre-tax damage from tariffs, they'll reach $600 million in the current fiscal year, which is up from a previous forecast of $500 million. They're coming from the tariffs on India, the EU, and his 50% border tax on steel and aluminum. So not only did it hit their earnings, but it hit their employees.
Yeah, and the company issued a statement that said this: the struggling ag economy continues to impact orders for John Deere equipment. This is a challenging time for many farmers, growers, and producers, and directly impacts our business in the near term. That's a big hit for them. And you mentioned earlier, I think you said that some of the smaller ticket items coming in are so affected that
they're returning to sender. Yeah, right. So we'll talk about that in just a second if that's okay. But still on this same with like John Deere, you have Caterpillar, which is another really big U.S. manufacturer, right? I mean, they do a lot of stuff here, but they have to bring stuff in. And they're saying that tariff-related costs could reach $1.5 billion in 2025, this year. Caterpillar.
Yeah, I guess I'd be interested in knowing where a lot of that comes from. Are they buying certain items from China, or they, where are they purchasing, or where are they selling that's being hit so hard by these tariffs?
It's not just China, but that's what they're saying with John Deere is that it's India, right? Remember, so India,
of course.
And then the EU, and then you've got that border tax on steel and aluminum. So when I think of tractors, I do think of steel.
Lots
right?
of steel. Yes.
Yeah. So that's part of it. And it's one of the things that's just got to be so frustrating for these companies, right? Because these are U.S. companies, these are U.S. manufacturers, but not every single thing is here. And they're going to be hit hard, including layoffs, right? And, of course, price increases.
I mean, you think of John Deere, you think of Caterpillar.
Yeah.
I mean, those are American companies, and they sell orders all over the world.
Yeah.
I mean, in big time orders.
Yeah. So let's go back to what you're saying about the global mail carriers. So interesting. They're saying, a lot of them are saying they've got to suspend deliveries to the United States because there was a tax exemption on low-value packages. That was $800 or less, but that's set to expire. And so you may have ordered something that may never show up.
Yeah, that's interesting.
This is going to affect millions of businesses around the world and Americans who rely on them for their products. Some European postal companies have decided to stop shipping to the U.S. until they figure out how this new rule is going to work. So starting Friday, any package coming into the U.S. that's worth under $800 will have to go through customs and will be tariffed. That tariff had been waived under what's called the de minimis tariff exemption, but President Trump getting rid of that after signing an executive order last month. This will affect all the countries shipping to the U.S.
That, look, I order online, and some of the stuff I know comes internationally. There's clothing that comes from China. I mean, and I'm buying small dollar items. Look, we have a texter who said that her daughter's dress was held up in customs because of the tariffs, and it never made it in time for her wedding. Her daughter's wedding dress.
And there was what they called the de minimis tariff exemption for items, I think, under $800,
right?
Which seemed to make a lot of sense
right.
because the tariff almost overcame the value of the property.
That's right.
to the point it
You're
wasn't
talking about
worth
like
it.
Temu, right?
Right.
Which is cheap stuff
Right.
from China. But there's also furniture companies, and they're another company or another I guess industry that could be hit with tariffs. But companies like Wayfair, RH, and Williams Sonoma, they all saw their shares dropped when the news was announced that the Trump administration is looking at how tariffs could impact furniture imports. And in fact, I literally just purchased something from Wayfair, and I think a lot of their stuff probably does come from China.
And you reminded me this morning that today is August 25th, which means it's 4 months from Christmas. So
Yes,
this is going
yes.
to affect consumers
Yeah.
and purchasers so deeply in the next 4 months. And it seems to me that the tariff situation has largely been settled. I know that there's still
It has
off
not.
and on.
It hasn't.
Maybe- I
That's
hope
the
not.
problem, right? Is that there's so much uncertainty. So we've talked about tariffs on Christmas. We've talked about Christmas trees. They had to place those orders in the spring to get them through all the way through the supply chain. Takes a long time, right? They're not sent by airfare or air carrier. They're sent by ship. But they placed those orders in April when the tariffs on China were 125%. So they ordered less, and the price is going to be more. We know that most of our toys come from China. Most of our games come from China, right? So we're talking about impacts on Christmas directly. But we have, it's just, for me, I think there's so much uncertainty. I'm not an economist, but when we talk to our economist friends, that's what they tell us, was there's just uncertainty in the markets, right? There's so much uncertainty.
Yeah, and it goes both ways. I mean, I'm sure that there are people in the European Union and in other countries who are having the same conversation we're having today, going, what's going on? I mean, our businesses are being affected. People are losing jobs. I mean, John Deere, you know what? That's probably been a company that's been around for 100 years.
Yeah.
Shutting down factories.
Yeah. Look, this is back to John Deere, and this is from the Wall Street Journal. One reason the Farm Belt is struggling, lower exports to China despite the recent tariff truce. The U.S. exported $5.5 billion in farm goods to China in the first half of the year, which is half as much as the same period in the year before. So the overall U.S. agricultural trade deficit is hitting a record. Farm exports used to be an American strength, and guess what? Now we can't do it.
Yeah, I mean,
we also have tariffs at the grocery store.
I would
Avocados.
hope that there would be a reset. I mean, when the administration hears something like this, and that jobs are going to be affected, and that huge companies that have been a part of the American economy for years have
I'd
been
say
affected.
this is Trump country too, right? The Farm Belt, they voted overwhelmingly for President Trump, and here we are. They're seeing some real impacts for some of his policies.
Well, I hope some of them get his attention. I mean, I really do. I
don't know.
think there's got to be some end to this. A furniture, agriculture community, and then this whole de minimis, low ticket items.
Right.
That'll make the daily Amazon shipment at my house slow down.
Decrease.
My wife, I'm going to be
decrease. Look, I have ordered online a couple of times from a company in India, and they do clothing. So I've ordered a couple of dresses from them, and I can just imagine, right? It's like if my dresses go up 50%, I'm not going to buy them anymore. Right.
And you get these small American companies who are importing some of their products from China so that they can sell, goods and toys and things like that, and they can't afford it anymore because their markup was never that great in the first place, and now they're paying a 35, 50, whatever % tariff on goods coming in.
And it depends, right? And they change all the time. So so multiple countries are suspending packages being sent to the United States. So there's even things from Europe. We know some of the things that are being hit in Europe. They're not high ticket items, but European chocolate, European wine. There are things that come from Europe that Americans enjoy, but they're going to be turned around at the border.
So at what point do you think, Holly, we revisit this? I mean, is it on a monthly basis? Do we write it out for 6 months and see what happens? I mean, I know I said it's settled. It's not settled, but it seems to be getting more and more to the point where we have these tariff agreements that are now in place, at least with some of our larger trading partners. And those are seemingly in place because they want some continuity. They want to have an idea of where we're going.
Well, I would say Republicans in Congress want you to wait 3 years and 4 months. the rest of President Trump's term to see if things turn around. And that's some of the argument, even for the John Deere stuff. It's like, well, give it enough time for manufacturing to come back. But, we've had many conversations with people who say it's just not that easy to bring stuff back. Do you remember Geneva Steel down in Utah County?
I worked there.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, well, I've lived in Utah County forever, but one of the things they said is when they shut down those smokestacks and stopped producing steel there, they would never be able to turn them back on. It is not as simple as saying, okay, well, we're going to bring it back to the U.S. It's just not that easy.
Yeah, little known fact, I was a metallurgist before I was
that's right. You
an
told me
attorney,
that.
and I worked at U.S. Steel, Geneva Works, back in the day. It was a fun place to work. It was sad to see it torn down. When we come back, at least 20 people, including 5 journalists, were killed after an Israeli strike on a hospital in Gaza. We'll have the details next. Stay with us on KSL News Radio, and you can stream us on KSL News Radio app, sponsored by At Your Service Pros.
11:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Claire Scott. KSL's top story this hour. The state has spent $29 million on wildfires this year, and most of those have been human-caused. KSL News Radio's Brianna Willis reports.
Of those $29 million, the federal government will likely pay for $20 million, according to the Division of Forestry, Fire, and State Lands Director, Jamie Barnes. She told the Division of Forestry, Fire, and State Lands there have been 801 fires so far, and 70% of those have been human-caused.
In previous years, the number of human-caused fires has been closer to around 50%. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. A U.S. official says plans are already underway to send National Guard troops to Chicago to crack down on crime, homelessness, and illegal immigration.
Democratic Governor Maryland's Wes Moore told the president, quote, "If you are not willing to walk our communities, keep our name out of your mouth." Trump lashing out, writing, "If Wes Moore needs help, I will send in the troops," which is being done in nearby D.C. and quickly clean up the crime. But this year, Baltimore is also seeing a double-digit decrease in gun violence, homicides, and shootings.
ABC's Jay O'Brien at the White House. President Trump is also threatening to send troops to New York and Baltimore. Your money at this moment, the Dow is down 237 points. The S&P is down 5 points. And coming up, thunderstorms this afternoon. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 11:31.
Mornings are for recharging.
And they're for starting your day right.
We volunteer to join you in the car. Get news and weather at 102.7 FM during the most important part of your day.
Andy and Amanda, each morning between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
I am not a rich woman, but I feel like a rich woman every time I go in my closet. The best, hands down, present I've ever received was my husband secretly redid my closet with Closets by Design. So now when I go in there aren't all these shoes just junked on the floor. They're neatly sitting on their shelves. And my necklaces are hanging on their individual hooks, and earrings are in their little squares in this soft drawer that pulls out. It's just gorgeous. In fact, he saw how much I loved it. He had Closets by Design redo the garage. So now all the stuff, the tools, the toys, the junk is all in cabinets. When you open our garage door, you see cars. That's it. It's amazing. The things that Closets by Design can do, and it's going to save you money right now because you get up to 40% off plus an additional 15% off with 18-month financing. You can do so much with your closet, much more than you realize, with this wonderful Utah company, Closets by Design. Find out more at 1-800-BY-DESIGN or closetsbydesign.com.
Matthew.
Huh? Oh, sorry.
It's okay. I just need you to listen to me.
I know that a lot of times, Mom, it might not seem like I'm listening to you, but I am. I hear you. And what you say really does matter to me.
I mean, let's be honest. No kid likes rules, but I get why we have them. I hear you, and I know it's because you care.
All the talks we've had over the years, including what you've told me about not using alcohol and other drugs, they stick with me. And believe it or not, they really do make a difference, especially at times that matter most.
Hey, want a drink?
No thanks, I'm good. So thank you, Dad, for talking and preparing me for what's ahead.
Thanks, Mom, for never giving up and always being my biggest fan.
Thank you for letting me know what you expect, so I can try to meet your expectations.
Thank you for talking.
For more information about talking with your kids about underage use of alcohol and other drugs, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Mountain America's My Style checking account. Here's Ricky Meese.
We have some slowdowns on northbound I-15, and this is in Davis to Weber counties. It'll start as you're approaching 5600 South Roy up to Riverdale, where there is road work going on. And with that, we have a listener texting in saying there are multiple vehicles with flat tires from the construction Hillfield all the way to 31st Street in Ogden on I-15 going northbound. So be very careful in this work zone and expect those delays. We also still have the ramp blocked to traffic from an earlier crash. If you're trying to join 2100 and 1300 South, that collector ramp at northbound I-15. If you're trying to connect to that from I-80 or the 201, that ramp is closed to all traffic. Common Spirit hospitals, clinics, and caregivers all connected to advanced health care in Colorado, Kansas, and Utah. Healthcare with Human Kindness is here. Hello, Human Kindness. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
A high of 89 with thunderstorms this afternoon. We'll see afternoon storms continue through Wednesday, with temperatures falling to the low 80s. Right now it is 79 and partly cloudy. I'm Claire Scott from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at KSLNewsRadio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
This is really troubling, but Israel struck a hospital on the Gaza Strip Monday, Nasser Hospital, killing at least 20 people, including 5 journalists who worked for Reuters, the Associated Press, Al Jazeera, and others.
It's really disturbing because some of the information that's coming out is that it was a double tap, meaning they sent a missile in, they had some deaths, there were people rushing to aid, and then they sent more. They attacked again a second time right after.
Here's an analysis from ABC News on the journalists killed in Gaza.
Well, Israel would say there's a lot of people in Gaza, and there are a lot of journalists trying to report what's going on. And they would say all civilian deaths are accidental, that they are part of its effort to try to root out Hamas. They say Hamas routinely uses civilians as human shields or uses areas of Gaza which are populated by civilians as headquarters or weapons storage facilities or to plan attacks on Israel or to fire rockets. That is what Israel says. The international community, the Committee to Protect Journalists, all the major networks who employ people inside Gaza refute that. They would say, well, the Committee to Protect Journalists says anyway, that on a number of occasions, I think over 20 now, they allege that Israel is specifically trying to kill journalists. They point not just to the fact that these journalists have been killed, but their families often are killed as well in separate incidents away from the quote-unquote front line inside Gaza. They also point to the fact that international journalists like me cannot go in to Gaza freely to report, to meet Palestinians, to hear what they have to say, that any time that journalists are allowed in, they're under these very heavily restricted military embeds with the IDF, not allowed really to get anywhere close to where Palestinians are. So yes, it's a very, very sad toll. And on this particular occasion, it looks as though, at least to those in Gaza who speak to us, that as soon as this strike had happened, when people rushed to the scene, ambulance crews, first responders, and yes, journalists, as is often the case, this second strike came in. And those in Gaza allege that that is what Israel does on purpose, a so-called double tap strike, in order to try to kill civilians. Israel says that's absolutely not what it does, that these are unintended consequences of its strategy to try to root out Hamas. But the debate rages on about what is truth.
That was James Longman. He's the ABC News chief international correspondent. And, you know, again, seeing these stories, so almost 200 journalists have been killed in the 20 months since the Gaza-Israel war broke out. And I think there's maybe like 18 in the Russia-Ukraine war. I mean, it's just a huge, huge number. It was the deadliest day for journalists in the Gaza war. Actually, it wasn't, because there were, quote, only 5 journalists killed. But 2 weeks ago, 6 journalists were killed.
It's hard to imagine.
In a single day.
It's hard to imagine Israel attacking journalists. I mean,
well, they
bad
attack
enough,
hospitals.
Bad enough that you attack a hospital.
Yeah.
And hopefully we haven't lost sight of that. 20 people killed, 5 journalists, and I don't know why 5 journalists were at the hospital, but maybe covering what's going on.
A couple
there.
of things. So that particular hospital is one where children who are starving to death are being treated for that starvation. So just over the weekend, there was an official announcement of famine in Gaza, and it literally is a technical definition of how many people have to die, and are dying per capita for it to be declared a famine. So there's that, but they're also there partially, it sounds like, because one of the hospital was hit, and then it was hit again. Right. So journalists go to where hospitals are being hit to report. But there were people who were at the hospital. And in fact, one of the articles that I'm looking at says this is a PBS article, but says that the military said that they were targeting a surveillance camera that was on the roof, but that journalists often congregate in an exterior staircase. And that's where the second hit was that exterior staircase.
Yeah, and I understand the Israelis feeling like hospitals are areas where terrorists can seek shelter, thinking, well, nobody will blow up a hospital. And unfortunately, that puts everybody at risk.
Right.
And who knows with the other 15 or so people that were killed, besides the 5 journalists, whether they were in fact Hamas or whatever. But I mean, I don't know as Israel gets closer and closer to overtaking and really occupying Gaza City, this is getting to the point where I don't know, nobody seems to be able to get a handle on it.
Well, one of the things we've heard several times from the Israeli side is that Hamas dug tunnels under hospitals and those types of things. But it just is sad, I think, when you have children who are starving to death, children and women and men too, but they're the more vulnerable are the older and women and kids, right, vulnerable to starvation. That when you're reporting on those stories, that the hospital that is doing that is the one that's targeted. So one of the people who died was an AP visual journalist. She was a freelancer, but Miriam Daga is her name, 33 years old. And one of the things that we've read in the news reports recently is that these journalists who are there in Gaza, they are also starving to death. They are also burying family members, right?
Right. And she's been known as a journalist who covers stories involving starving and malnourished children, which is exactly what that hospital was caring for.
Yep.
I mean, and she's there covering that. Maybe Israel feels like they're miscovering it or overcovering it or misstating what's going on.
Yeah, they didn't say that, right? They said, oopsies, we're not targeting journalists. But there is an organization called Reporters Without Borders, so you can imagine, who they advocate for. But the Director General of Reporters Without Borders said that press freedom advocates had never seen such a severe step backward for reporter safety. They have been killed in indiscriminate strikes and in targeted attacks that Israel acknowledged carrying out. And I remember talking about specific strikes on World Central Kitchen. This is not journalists, but these are volunteers there working to help feed people. And this was a while ago, maybe a year ago, but that they specifically targeted World Central Kitchen. And they had a great big, sign on the roof of their vehicle indicating that they were there as an aid organization, and they literally were targeted and killed.
Yeah, and the Palestinian presidency is urging the UN Security Council and the United Nations to provide protection for journalists and hold Israel accountable. The Palestinian Journalist Syndicate condemned the strike, saying it represented a, quote, open war against the media and with the aim of terrorizing journalists and preventing them from fulfilling their professional duty of exposing its crimes to the world. And the Committee to Protect Journalists, which put a number of journalists and media, which noted that a number of media and journalists have been killed since the war began, and put that number at 197, including 189 Palestinians in Gaza.
Yeah. So that's, really, it's just disturbing. And you can have a conversation about the role of countries in protecting themselves from terrorist organizations, but you also have to have a conversation about civilian deaths and journalists and children, right, where you have children literally starving to death and aid being blocked, journalists reporting on those stories, and then those journalists die.
We talked last week, Holly, about the people in Israel who are concerned now and upset at Netanyahu for what's going on, and something like this is absolutely not going to help that.
And Netanyahu said he's taking over all of Gaza, and they were mobilizing 60,000 reservist troops. So, again, we're talking about a story that came out this morning that at least 20 people, including 5 journalists, were killed after an Israeli strike on a hospital in Gaza occurred. And it was a double tap. So it was a shoot one, and then as people rushed to the site, there's another even bigger explosion.
And it's a hospital that helps
starving children.
Starving children.
Yep.
Unbelievable.
Yep. All right. Well, when we come back, we're going to talk about an engineering student at BYU who has discovered something that is useful to NASA in origami shapes.
Of all things, yes.
Super interesting. And we'll have more details on how this paper folding design could help out in space exploration, plus my fun facts of the day when we come back after the break.
10 years ago, Les Olson IT set out to do more than fix copiers and printers. We set out to become the IT team Utah businesses count on. Today, we're proud to celebrate a decade as Utah's managed IT service provider, trusted by thousands of local companies for secure, reliable tech support. Thanks for trusting us. Here's to the next 10 years of innovation, protection, and partnership. Visit lesolson.com to learn more.
Les Olson IT.
This Friday, join KSL News Radio and NPS from 10 to 1 as the movie show stops by. Then, browse and uncover what makes NPS so great. With 4 locations, NPS takes a new inventory every day. Then, they check all competitors' retail pricing before marking items down 20 to 70% off. You're invited to visit the movie show this Friday from 10 to 1. And that's the first step to discovering NPS. Visit npsstore.com to begin your own NPS adventure. npsstore.com.
Saving for retirement was tough enough for us.
Yes, and navigating markets can be challenging at times.
I understand. That's why at Fisher Investments, we take a disciplined approach with your investments.
Tell us more about that.
We take an active approach to money management, positioning your portfolio for opportunities we see ahead.
So all your clients get the same portfolio?
No. We tailor your portfolio to your individual goals and needs.
What about communication? We don't like being left in the dark.
We check in regularly to keep you informed on the markets and your portfolio.
Which means you'll help us stay on track.
Yes. Our goal is your comfortable retirement. And as a fiduciary, we always put your interests first. Because we do better when you do better. At Fisher Investments, we're clearly different. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com.
Investing in securities involves the risk of loss.
This is Derek Miller speaking on business. Clear numbers create strong businesses, and Durable Finance is helping Utah companies achieve both. From bookkeeping to CFO level strategy, they're giving business owners the tools to grow. Chief Executive Officer Chase Murdoch joins us with more.
Most accounting firms stop at the numbers, but we don't. Durable Finance was built by operators for operators, people who understand what it's like to run a business and make difficult decisions under pressure. We cover the fundamentals, bookkeeping, accounting, and accurate financial reporting, but our value goes beyond that. We provide strategic support through cash flow forecasting, budgeting, and CFO-level guidance that helps business owners move forward with clarity and confidence. Too often, business leaders are left guessing what their numbers really mean. We eliminate that uncertainty. Our work gives owners the financial visibility they need to grow wisely and manage risk effectively. From startups to established companies, we work with businesses across industries to build financial systems that scale, support informed decisions, and fuel long-term success. At Durable Finance, we don't just deliver numbers, we deliver insight. Learn more at durablefinance.co.
Durable Finance is helping Utah businesses grow by providing clear financial guidance and support. They help owners make smart decisions, manage growth, and build strong, lasting companies that benefit Utah's economy and local communities. I'm Derek Miller with the Salt Lake Chamber, speaking on business.
Right now at S&S Roofing, get $1,000 off any roof replacement. Plus, you'll get their incredible 50-year worry-free warranty. Dial pound 250 and then say the keyword S&S Roofing for a free bid.
If you talk, they will hear you.
We all want our kids to grow up safe and healthy, so we show them how. And we tell them with honest conversations that let them know what we expect. Not just one time, but every chance we get. That's especially important when it comes to alcohol and other drugs. Kids not only need to know the dangers and how to avoid them, they need to hear it often from you. And when it comes to pain medications, opioids, they need to know that they should never be taken without a prescription and never shared with friends or family. It's dangerous and illegal. So talk with your kids and guide them through the challenges of growing up safe and healthy. Because when you talk, they hear you. For more information about talking with your kids about underage use of alcohol and other drugs, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
So talk, they hear you. You can do it if you try.
And expanded Inside Sources.
Holly, have you ever tried your hand at origami?
I have. I can make a frog.
You're kidding.
And I can make a cup.
I should have known. I mean, it was a trick question, but you answered it. I've never tried it, but obviously it's the art of paper folding. It's hundreds of years old. But an engineering student at BYU has discovered a new style of origami shape that might be useful to NASA. Here's KSL News Radio's Don Brinkerhoff.
Kelvin Wong created this new origami style as part of his work in the engineering department at BYU, where they're studying how origami patterns can be used for things like solar panels and antennas. Mechanical engineering professor Larry Howell says Wong's new origami has some unique characteristics, including being able to go from very small when closed to many times larger when opened up. He says this new origami style may be of use to NASA.
The most common one that we're working on with NASA is, devices that can be compact for launch, so to be in a rocket and stowed compactly. And then when it gets into space, then it deploys out and becomes large.
Howell says there could also be some consumer applications in things like collapsible containers, backpacking, and other times when you need a small container.
This has some unique new properties that we haven't seen before, combined all together in one pattern. And so one of those is its ability to scale.
What's interesting to me about this really is that they're saying that this BYU student, Kelvin Wang, discovered a new origami pattern. So origami's been around since at least the 1600s. I wouldn't have thought that there were patterns that hadn't yet been discovered.
So I was thinking of origami as a way to create strength out of some sort of metal or plastic or carbon fiber or something. But what they're talking about is using it as a way to reduce the size of something so that you can unfold it, and you make it useful. I mean,
so we have done that on solar panels before, right? But this is a different way of folding, and it is taking it from, I guess, potentially much larger into this really tiny compact thing. And some of the designs that you can see, like there's a YouTube video from BYU that you can actually see them folding these patterns, and they actually published an article in a scientific journal. So that's good, right? That means that they have something that people are really interested in. But there's also not only NASA, but if you think like solar shields, right? So if you can take it from something really compact to expanding to something really big, it makes it easier to transport for sure. But they're also looking at medical devices, at maybe bulletproof shields, architecture, furniture, and aerodynamic components for transportation.
Yeah, it makes more and more sense the more you think about it, that folding something into a way, especially when you're dealing with space, that decreases the size substantially, but then you can still unfold it, and it has its strength and its integrity that you wanted in the first place.
Yeah. So they're calling this a bloom pattern, like a flower, right? Because they think it resembles flowers blooming. And Wang, the student, said these patterns have three characteristics that make them unique. First, they can be folded flat. Second, they're deployable. And third, they expand like a flower blooming, rotating from the center.
Yeah. Fun.
Interesting.
That's a really interesting thing. I'd love to see. Apparently, you've been able to look at some of them. I'd love to see some of these patterns.
They're so pretty,
cool,
right? I mean, it's really easy to do an origami frog, or I've even done like the doves. They do the piece doves. Yeah, you make it. You fold it so you can fold this origami paper into a frog shape, and then if you do it right, if you push on the backside of the frog, it will jump. So it's very cool.
Okay. I always think of origami as sort of the flightless bird or something. I don't know.
No.
Okay.
It's paper folding.
Yeah,
it's paper folding. All right. So I've actually used it in a very lightweight in making leis with dollar bills. So like floral leis, the necklaces you put around people, right, in Hawaii. So I have a daughter that graduated from BYU Hawaii, and I folded dollar bills into different forms, flowers, but I did bows, and there's some other stuff too that you can actually do origami with money.
More than just birds and airplanes that I always see origami folded into.
Right. So, and you can even, you can get books. And these are the simple ones, but what he did, of course, was very, very complex.
All right, fun. What else do you have that's fun for
Fun
us?
facts of the day. So today is 4 months from...
Good tidings we bring to you and your kin. We wish you
Make it stop, please.
So
Make
look,
it
it's
stop.
a
You remind
running
me of
joke.
this, right?
It's a running joke, and one of the reasons I do this, in fact, I showed you before the show that I had a memory pop up on Facebook from 10 years ago today, that started the Christmas countdown. Now, you would think that if I was so focused on the 25th of the month, means that we're X number of months away from Christmas,
right?
That I would be ready. I am not. It's probably just a painful reminder that I will not be ready on the 25th of December, but it's only 4 months from now.
Well, you reminded me on June 25th, and you reminded me on
July 25th. I know.
I assume we're going to have this conversation on September 25th.
The clock.
Yep,
That's right. Yeah, I'm sure we will. So it's also National Banana Split Day. So if you like banana splits, please indulge. Today's your day.
I told you that I started my career as a soda jerk at Snell Groves, and we could make. It's hard to describe this. I could cut a banana without ever touching the meat of the banana, simply by unpeeling it and then cutting
slicing it inside the peel.
Yeah, and slicing it out. They made us do it that way, so you never touch.
Oh, yeah. Ooh,
you
I
never
wouldn't
touch the
want your
banana.
fingers on my bananas,
Yeah, there you
so,
go. So
yeah.
we did it, and I still do it for my friends and family when they come over. I'll make them banana splits without ever touching the banana.
Nice. I used to serve my kids banana splits, but instead of like the long banana half split that way, I would do the shorter slices, so that it was just all together. Okay, so on this date in 1916, the National Park Service was founded. So that's a big day, right? In fact, it's one of the other holidays of today. It's like National Park Service Day.
I would have thought it would be longer than that. So that's 109 years ago.
Yep.
I would have thought we had parks going before then.
We did have some parks, but this is when the Park Service was founded. So officially. So it's actually Park Service Founders Day today, too, if you want to celebrate a different holiday. President Woodrow Wilson is the one who signed that into law. So it established the National Park Service to, quote, protect and preserve America's natural and cultural resources for the public's enjoyment, education, and inspiration.
And how forward-thinking that was, and insightful that was. And look at what we've done.
We do have some. We have some really great national parks, don't we?
Yeah, in Utah especially.
Yeah, 5. So you know John Birch maybe as who? That name, John Birch.
Right wing.
Yeah, the John Birch Society, right?
Yes.
He actually was an American missionary to China before the war, the World War II. He was a captain in the army during the war, and on this day in 1945, he was killed by the Chinese. So
you don't hear that name, the John Birch Society. I don't know if it still exists. Or
it does still, it does still exist.
But it used to be a group that they met fairly regularly.
And there's some morphing, I think, with some of the political things that you see.
Right.
Today. So on this day in 1952, Puerto Rico became a U.S. Commonwealth. So they want to be a new state. So they're like, make us number 51.
Yeah.
But no luck so far.
So that's 70 years ago.
70?
They've been a Commonwealth, 73 years. Yeah, make them a state.
I don't know. I don't think that's going to happen, but it could, I guess. So on this day in 1985, I don't know if you remember the young woman. She was a young girl, actually. Her name is Samantha Smith. She was famous for writing a letter to Yuri Andropov. He was the newly appointed General Secretary of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union at the beginning. This was 1982 that she sent this letter. And she basically sent this letter and asked for peace. So she got a letter back from Andropov inviting her to visit the Soviet Union, which she did. So remember, this is early 1980s. This is still Soviet bloc, hadn't fallen.
Was she an American?
She was an American girl, a young girl. And unfortunately, when on this day in 1985, she was only 13 years old, she died in a plane crash. So
good heavens.
She was a peace ambassador as a child. But her life was cut short in a plane crash.
Wow.
Okay.
Forgotten about that name, by the way. But
Yeah.
now that you mention it, yes, I remember that situation.
Yeah. Okay, do you remember Hurricane Katrina?
Oh, yes.
So on this day is when Hurricane Katrina began to form in 2005. Yeah.
It was that long ago.
Yeah.
You think of that as fairly recent.
20 years ago.
That
Yep.
was one of the most devastating things we've ever suffered from natural causes.
Yeah, and it's in the basically in the conversation again today because of all the cuts that have happened recently with FEMA,
Right.
So the Federal Emergency Management, what are they?
Agency.
Thank you.
That's a guess.
I knew there was an A. It probably is that. But with all of those cuts, people are afraid that if another Hurricane Katrina were to hit, we would really be in big trouble.
Right.
And then finally, before we leave, two famous people died on this day. Ted Kennedy in 2009 and John McCain in 2018.
Wow. Kind of polar opposites, but died the
The
same
same day.
New arresting documents are shedding light on details at a break-in at a Park City gun club over the weekend, which ended in a standoff at a local bike park. Stay with us for the latest details. Midday with Maria Chaleos is up next.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Good afternoon. KSL News Time is 12 o'clock noon. And